Part 246. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2457. Yin-Yang stepped out of the subspace with an indifferent step, and his body slowly shrank from a size of 10 kilometers to a tiny size. He looked at the two invading enemies with a sneer. What it is, you two can imagine for yourself, but I can tell you here, this time I just don't want to hurt people's lives. If there is another time, no matter it is you or other domain lords around, I will no longer. Please be merciful. I hope you two will convey this to your friends nearby. Do you understand? We understand. If before, the two domain lords stopped attacking and were still a little unwilling in their hearts, then now, they are completely frightened and have no intention of fighting at all. Under the pressure of such a terrifying force, let alone their fighting spirit, they still had some sense of generosity by running away without making a fuss. At the same time, they also vaguely discovered that the energy of this huge pressure seemed to be exactly the same as yin and yang, and seemed to have the same origin. This answer only took less than a second. The two domain masters, who could also use clones, immediately figured out what kind of existence yin-yang was, and who this huge energy existence was. This, the yin and yang in front of us that can fight against the domain lord, is just a clone of this huge energy existence. What kind of strength does this excellency have? The expressions of the two territory lords changed wildly, and the old territory lord's expression changed even more, and he looked at Leda in front of them suspiciously. Leda shook his head and smiled bitterly. He was not a clone. Of course, he would not say such words at this moment, because it was not that time at all. The old domain master must have seen that he was an independent creature by looking at him twice. In short, the two domain masters were shocked. If the yin and yang that can directly fight with them are the clones of a strong man, then it will be easy for this strong man to kill them. The terrifying pressure just released also proved this. This, sir, can we leave now? We have agreed to all your requests. Just wait and leave. You will know how you will treat the yin-yang sect in the future. We understand. Thank you, sir. The two domain masters were relieved and quickly rushed towards the starry sky outside. They are extremely fast. It can be said that they have fully displayed the fastest speed that they have not shown in the previous battle. I am afraid that they will use up all their energy to feed. Huh? Ran away. Everyone in the yin-yang sect was slightly surprised. The two territory lords said they were blocked, but they didn't feel like they were at a disadvantage. Why did they suddenly seem to be running away? Could it be that the pause just now and some exchange between the two parties led to the departure of the two domain lords? I really can't understand what's going on between strong men. What this group of creatures didn't know was that the departure of the two domain lords was not at all due to any communication they imagined, but because Jia Yan used his true body's energy to make the other party escape in embarrassment. Master Jia Yan, can you let them go? Leda asked hesitantly as he looked at the two creatures quickly leaving in the depths of the starry sky. In the subspace, Yin Yang, Jia Yan's clone, who had just walked out, said indifferently, "It doesn't matter, these two guys are nothing to be afraid of, and I just released my power to scare them. As long as they are smart enough, it will be impossible to attack our yin-yang sect in the future. Instead, we will vigorously promote our yin-yang sect and ensure the future safety of our yin-yang section." That's true. Their lives are at your fingertips, and they will probably not dare to be disobedient to your sect in the future. Leda smiled and nodded. To be honest, Leda's self-confidence is at its highest now. He has just fought head-on with a territory lord and achieved a draw. This is a big surprise for him, a strong man who used to regard territory lord as a god. That said, it was an absolute boost in self-confidence. Of course, self-confidence is self-confidence. Leda is not so inflated that he is arrogant. He knows very well that at least 80% of his current combat power comes from Jia Yan's gifts, such as the so-called Iron Hammer artifact and his subspace ability. Without these two abilities, he is afraid that he will not even be able to compete with the Elder Domain. Not even a single blow from the Lord can be received. Not to mention, after following Jia Yan has been solving training problems for him, and his energy has been consumed a lot by Leda. So Leda understands very well that what he is today is all due to Jia Yan's help, so no matter how arrogant he is, he cannot have the slightest intention to fight against Jia Yan. On the contrary, the more benefits he gets from Jia Yan's help, the more he will respect and identify with Jia Yan. This is his character. Otherwise, when the Zerg Queen's power was in danger, he would not stay to fight against the enemy until the situation calmed down. When you feel better, go out and look for solutions to your problems. If Leda was not a loving and righteous being, Jia Yan might not be able to accept him as his only subordinate. Master. Yin Yang and Leda quickly flew into the Yin Yang sect, and a crowd of Yin Yang sect members, including Jia Yan's disciples, all gathered around them. Everyone looked at the Yin Yang clone and Leda with extremely respectful eyes. You know, these two beings who seemed to have done trivial things actually defeated a creature that was probably a domain lord in front of them just now. You know, the existence of the territory lord is like a god to the lives in the Peace Star territory. Now that the gods appear, they are repulsed by their master and master's friends. How can they not respect their master? Haha, maybe you were frightened just now. There's no need to be frightened, it's just a little thief. Yin Yang comforted several disciples with a smile. After all, he showed great strength in front of them, and the level of that battle was too much beyond their strength. It might frighten the hearts of several disciples, and they would not be able to improve their strength in the future. The problem is huge. Spirit thief? Master, what are the strengths of those two scorpion guests just now? Why do we feel that they are much stronger than the average galaxy level? Ryan was a little surprised. The weaker disciples probably felt the same when looking at the galaxy level and the territory lord, so they just felt that the more mammoth battle just now was more thrilling, and they didn't seem to be able to see any more differences. Jia Yan was speechless for a while, then shook his head. You guys, if you encounter beings who give you this feeling in the future, run away as far as you can, because they are the domain lord level beings you suspect. If they were just suspicious before, now that Jia Yan said it himself, everyone was stunned again. There is still a difference between speculation and reality. The previous speculation was just a fantasy. If it becomes a reality, I am afraid it will still shock everyone. Master, if they are territory lords, are you also a territory lord? And Senior Leda, are you also a territory lord? That's amazing, Master, you are all territory lords. After hearing so much, Billy was the first to start flattering in a strange way. No, you and I, Senior Leda, are not territory lords. As for what it is, you can guess by yourself, ha ha ha. Jia Yan smiled non-committally. Today's Shan Sheng's expression was not only seen by people in the Yin Yang sect. You know, the arrival of the two territory lords was broadcast live to many forces in the Peace Star territory through technological equipment. At this moment, in front of the live broadcast screens of many channels, a large number of galaxy-level powerhouses from various forces, as well as administrative personnel, were all silent. I couldn't speak to myself for a long time. Who can tell me, is the scene just now real? The Yin Yang sect can actually be able to deal with the two domain lords and repel them. If there is nothing wrong with my eyes, the scene you see may be real. This Yin Yang section. Horrible. All the high-ranking officials who saw the scene felt extremely bitter. This Yin Yang sect is pretending to be too good. It seemed high-profile before and had conflicts with many forces. However, considering the fact that they actually have the background to deal with the two major domain lords, it cannot be called high profile. Rather, we should say, why are they so low-key? So low-key that even so many ordinary galaxy-level forces around them dare to take their chances. You have domain lord level combat effectiveness. Can you bring it out as soon as possible? It's not kind of you to make everyone almost come to your door to seek death, isn't that kind? Not only can we afford to offend the yin-yang sect, but also the many domain lord level forces behind us. Forget it, if this force wants to develop in our peaceful star territory, then let them develop, even if they want to teach some yin and yang Tao, it is up to them. Yes, since they are teaching the way of cultivation, and this way of cultivation comes from the hands of the powerful domain lord, why should we stop it? If the yin and yang sect can prove that they are even in our peaceful star territory with such poor resources. If every land can develop well, doesn't it mean that their path is suitable for us? Not only is this not a bad thing, it's even a good thing. That's right, we need to change our thinking. The appearance of the yin-yang sect may not be harmful to us, it may even be beneficial. All the power lords, after knowing that it was impossible to fight against the yin-yang sect, instantly thought of other good directions, and soon their worries turned into surprises, and even ecstasy. Because if the leader of the yin-yang sect is actually a territory lord, then why should they stop him? There is no territory lord to control the Peace Star territory because it is too poor. The territory lord would rather control the development of forces in the Peace Star territory from outside rather than move the base camp here personally. It is also because there is no strong person in the Peace Star territory. Future. But now there is a domain lord level force willing to come here to develop, which shows that this domain lord level force has the technology and ability to develop in the barren land. In other words, not only can they not be unhappy, but they must also vigorously support yin-yang Dao. Maybe one day, they will be able to learn the essence of yin-yang sect from yin-yang sect, and then benefit all those in power? On Mayado. It seems, maybe, it might be a road worth revamping. Jia Yan lies deep in subspace. He has never thought about the reactions of so many other forces in the Peace Star territory, because to him, this place is just a hastily established force. It will probably take a long time to develop in the future. It is still in a state of watering down. The stage of raising. Therefore, in the current yin-yang sect, it is okay to say that Jia Yan pays attention, but to say how much he attaches importance to it is an exaggeration. After all, Jia Yan is no longer the newcomer who would get excited when he casually established a force in the starry sky. This yin-yang sect, after my early start, I am afraid it will be able to last longer. Even if I leave, at least within 100 years, no force will dare to attack. As for 100 years later, do you really want to leave it alone? It's impossible, but I really want my yin and yang Dao to flourish. Jia Yan smiled. The yin-yang sect has solved many problems once and for all. He would also like to thank the two territory lords for causing trouble, otherwise even if he wanted to kill a chicken to scare the monkeys, there would be no one nearby for him to do it. Choosing an ordinary force would only provoke stronger territory lords, and he would go outside the Peace Star territory to find them. The territory lord's troubles are both troublesome and difficult to achieve. So Jia Yan is quite grateful to these two guys. Okay, the matter with the yin-yang sect has been settled, so, my return journey is nearing the end. As for the area where I fought against the Zerg Queen, Jia Yan thought back to the place where he left the Peace Star territory and followed the Zerg Queen's forces to fight against the major domain lord forces. Then he shook his head. Although I'm stronger, I still have to talk about right and wrong. Those major domain lord level forces were attacked by the Zerg Queen's forces and had to fight back. Although I was also chased by one of the domain lords at that time. After killing them, I went to Shiyuan, but my hatred for them is not strong. Now that I am not on my way, there is no need to go there and make trouble, otherwise it would be like a villain who has succeeded. Jia Yan thought about the above reasoning, then smiled slightly, feeling that he was more open-minded. Of course, this is just his temporary thought. If he knows in the future that those forces are still working tirelessly to cause trouble for the Zerg Queen, or are searching for Jia Yan's whereabouts for revenge, then I'm sorry, but his counterattack will not be a simple punishment. It will end the matter immediately, but will directly destroy these major forces once and for all, because that is the simplest and crudest plan for senior domain owners to act. At the edge of the central star field of the Milky Way, several major domain lords felt a chill inexplicably. For the strong, many inexplicable feelings may be signs, so they quickly issued orders for their subordinates to stay down and wait for the situation to pass. Little did they know that their unintentional behavior actually allowed them to redeem themselves. Of course, this is something for later, and it would be useless to say more now. Okay, I'm going to set off again in 2 days. It just so happens that I'm a lot more proficient in operating this palace, so that when I return to Earth, I can show off in front of my family and everyone on Earth. Bah, it's not about showing off, it's revealing miracles, haha. Set a small goal first, such as remembering in 1 second, Shikiju mobile version reading website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2458. How big is something that's 10,000 kilometers long? Big. That is unspeakably big. Is the Earth big? Big, right? After all, there are tens of billions of people living on the Earth, and countless lives can be born. And such a planet is only more than 12,700 kilometers in diameter. And something with a diameter of 10,000 kilometers is not much behind the Earth. It is exaggerated that the Earth has a large number of uninhabitable environments, and this completely artificial palace has much more places to live. Even a pillar or a chair can easily accommodate thousands of people. How exaggerated do you think it is? Creak. At this moment, there was a creature sitting on this chair that could accommodate thousands of people. He is Leda. This former strong Zerg queen was now Jia Yan's only subordinate, and with the ability to subspace, her strength was already extremely powerful. What's more, after mastering the Yin-Yang Dao magical artifact given by Jia Yan last time, Leda's strength exploded to the point where he actually fought against a domain lord. Every time the dream turns 1,000 times, he will remember the beautiful dream, as if the whole world is filled with laughter. But today, in the palace deep in the space, the 30-kilometer-long hammer weapon has long been gone. Because the hammer weapon was placed in the Yin-Yang star deep in the Yin-Yang sect. The huge hammer-like magical weapon demonstrates the terror of the Yin-Yang sect, and allows the Yin-Yang sect to add another defensive method. After all, the magical weapon can attack anytime and anywhere. This time, Jia Yan did not completely abandon the Yin-Yang section. He thought carefully and left his Yin-Yang clone in the Yin-Yang section. Moreover, the Yin-Yang in the future will only be this tortoise-like clone, and no longer be the giant of himself. Jia Yan, who is in the body of a mosquito. Since everyone thinks so, what if he lets Yin and Yang become the real Yin and Yang and retreats behind the scenes? It's all yours anyway. As for Yin-Yang Dao, he really wanted to see how far he could go with the banner of Yin-Yang sect. Master Jia Yan, on this journey back to my hometown, I would like to ask you to let me stay in my hometown for a while, and my hometown is not far from your Orion arm. After I finish my work, I rush to your hometown. What do you think? Okay, you've been away from home for a long time, so you don't have to be in a hurry. I can come to you after I've taken care of some things. Don't deny it in a hurry. In fact, I just want you to run away from other strong people. In the hometown of the Zerg Queen, you can remember many of the names of those powerful people who are still in the Zerg Queen's power. They have been away from their hometown for many years. You should pay a visit and see what their power and family are like. If you need some help, your trip will not be too easy. I wonder if you are willing. Jia Yan and Leda had already left the central star field of the Milky Way for a long time, and both were entrenched in the main hall in the subspace. In this huge hall, their bodies are only 30 to 50 kilometers long, so they are like coming to the country of adults with the villains. Of course, this palace has more than one hall, and there are many rooms and so on, but usually they would rather this habit of staying in the palace was brought from the Zerg Queen's power, and it also facilitated Jia Yan and Leda's communication and practice. Even though the palace and the Edisha star next to the palace at this time have entered a very deep place in the subspace, the speed can be said to be very fast, much faster than the speed of the Zerg Queen's forces when they came, but now they have flown several times. Months later, it is still far from the Orion Arm. The universe is huge, and its size cannot be simply described in terms of palaces and planets, but in terms of light years. Infinite space is like a despairing enemy. Even if you reach the galaxy level, even if you reach the domain lord level, even if you reach the high level of the galaxy that is stronger than the domain lord, or even the peak, I am afraid that you cannot ignore the hugeness of the universe. The starry sky is often described in terms of light years, hundreds of light years, and thousands of light years, which makes all the powerful people desperate and can only look up and stare at the starry sky. Everyone knows that they will not be able to travel the entire universe in their lifetime. No matter how strong people are and how great their desire for the universe is, they can only look at the stars with fear and admiration. Even if he is as powerful as Jia Yan now, he has been in awe of the universe more than once while traveling in the starry sky. You know, he is currently able to enter the 10th level of subspace, but after the 10th level, there seems to be an endless stream of subspace depth. With his current ability, it seems that he still cannot break through the 10th level of space depth. This time, the space also belonged to the universe. Even if he entered the 10th dimension and flew at a speed far exceeding the speed of light, it would still take years and months to return to the Orion Arm from the central star field of the Milky Way. The distance of 25,000 to 28,000 light-years is not far, but this distance is enough for countless powerful creatures to run to death. Jia Yan was able to hitch a ride on the Zerg Queen's power, and successfully achieve such an extent in just 10 or 20 years. It can be said that he returned to his hometown with complete glory, and it is not an exaggeration to say that he is proud of his ancestors. Not to mention Jia Yan, even Leda can gain a foothold in the central star field of the galaxy and then return to his hometown in a stronger state, which is enough for him to brag about. Don't forget, other strong men are still working hard in the central star field of the Milky Way. The most miserable ones are those who have died in the central star field of the Milky Way. I am afraid that the entire team of strong men who followed the Zerg Queen's forces has suffered more than half the casualties. In other words, some of the strong men who left at the beginning have more than half of the people will not be able to come back, and whether the other half will come back in the future is still unknown. Well, sir, I am willing. I originally wanted to bring the news about those friends to their families. If Lord Jia Yan is willing to give me time, of course I will be very happy. Okay then, it's settled. There isn't much time until we arrive, so be prepared. Jia Yan sighed. He didn't know if he thought of those friends who once set off together with great enthusiasm, but now their bodies were nowhere to be found, or if he thought of the ruthlessness and vastness of the universe. In short, Jia Yan, who has recently been close to his hometown again, seems to be in a low mood again. Although his avatar is on the earth and he knows that there should be no big problems on the earth, Jia Yan always has a feeling of being close to home. It's not that the earth is so scary. After all, the palace he currently occupies is more than enough to accommodate all life on earth. How could he be afraid of earthlings? The reason why he is timid about being close to his hometown is because there are too many people there that people care about, and there are too many past memories for him to remember. Therefore, Jia Yan is also complicated about returning to the Orion Arm. I'm afraid I won't be able to use my real body even when I return to Earth right now. If a 50-kilometer large mosquito arrives on Earth, Task I'm afraid it will scare many old people to death on the spot. Jia Yan shook his head mockingly. When he returned to his hometown on Earth, it was not so much the return of his true body as the fact that he could only hide his body and use his clone to experience it up close. Of course, the feeling of being close to your hometown with your real body is completely different from the feeling of seeing it with a clone from a distance. It's like making a phone call and returning to your hometown with a real person. Although the Orion Arm is one of the main anti-vortex arms of the Milky Way, to people on Earth, what they call the Orion Arm is a huge starry sky area close to the Earth. It's about a few hundred light-years in size. In terms of size, it's pretty huge. It's not much smaller than the entire Milky Way's central star field. But the gap in the number of strong people is too big, and the gap between the number of star systems and the amount of interstellar matter is also extremely terrifying. Therefore, it is unrealistic for the forces in the starry sky to simply evaluate the strength based on the size of the territory. Today's Orion Arm is certainly not what it was when it was closed. Even the number of strong men has improved in quality. But the problem is that the Orion Arm has been closed for too long, and its own foundation has long been insufficient. Now it has been opened in a hurry. Even though there are rumors that a super strong person is in charge, the problem is that the overall strength is insufficient. In addition, the mysterious super strong person himself seems to have disappeared for a long time. As a result, the position of the Orion Arm in the entire surrounding area became slightly embarrassing. After all, you said you can be strong, but that was only in front of the weak enemies around you. If you look further, there are many forces with galactic-level powerhouses around, and even some of the forces that have fought against the Orion Arm before, affiliated to the protection of some galaxy-level powerhouses. Of course, the actual combat ability of the former Mosquito ancestor was too terrifying, and it was rumored that he was a powerful person with subspace talent. This also made many galaxy-level powerhouses fearful, so they did not rise too much to annex Orion's arm. Thoughts? But the big direction doesn't work. What about the small direction? In the large-scale exchanges between star regions, you can look at a strong person, but when it comes to details, the weak ones will definitely suffer more. For example, between companies, between chables, or in a certain direction of the star empire, or in a certain area of small forces, they say they are affiliated with the Orion Arm, but no one can directly use the name of Mosquito ancestor when going out. Even if it is used, I am afraid it will not be convincing. Ever since, the entire Orion Arm has gradually suffered too many losses in the years since the gate to the star territory was opened. But there is no reason for anyone to argue, because if you are not open, you cannot make progress. Even if you suffer some losses, even if you become a fool in other people's eyes in the transaction, you can only admit it through gritted teeth. Haha, are you Orion Arm people really stupid? Are you even willing to accept our offer? Of course I accept it, because the resources we need in the Orion Arm can only be purchased from you. This is not an attempt by our company to bully you, but an agreement between the upper management of this star field and your Orion Arm senior management. So, happy cooperation. Well, happy working together. After completing a certain business cooperation that suffered a huge loss, Suya, the representative of the Orion Arm who had suffered a huge loss and was also the most powerful Empire princess in the Orion Arm, walked back to the Empire with a cold face. Transport carrier. The Empire, the most powerful country in the entire Orion Arm at the time, was almost on the verge of destruction. However, it finally stopped the country from self-destruction because it fell to the Earth Alliance in time. Today's Empire, although its territory has been affected by the previous war, has shrunk slightly. But no matter what, they still have countless advantages, so they still have the tendency to dominate the Orion Arm. After all, regardless of the size of the country, population, resources, commerce, etc., they all occupy the majority of the Orion Arm. However, Due to historical issues and its distant relationship with the Earth, it is difficult for the Empire to enjoy the orthodox preferential treatment within the Orion Arm. Externally, because the Empire was not strong enough, and the original Mosquito ancestor did not completely stand behind the Empire, it was even more difficult for them to go. After all, Orion's arms to the outside world were like clouds of strong men, and they could pull out any force at will. They were able to destroy the Empire several times. If they hadn't barely been considered one of the members of the Orion Arm Alliance, this seemingly huge country, but actually just a big country, might have perished several times. Princess, we have suffered too much this time. That force, rumored to be just a small force in the nearby Red Cloud Star territory, has defeated us in one fell swoop. Doesn't the Alliance care about it? Back on the mothership, a man who looked like an Imperial standing behind the Imperial Princess Suya's side. Suya took off her princess robe calmly, her face was cold, but she didn't show the slightest anger. You know, our relationship with the Alliance is not that close, and the Orion Arm Alliance seems to be able to defend, but with so many covetous forces from the outside world, they can only protect themselves at most. Our empire is so big, he's so big, the Alliance can't save it. Suya hit the nail on the head, and what she said made the man nod slightly. Find bookstore M. Perhaps, our empire seems to be within the Alliance, but our industrial and strong cultural development far exceeds that of other Orion Arm Alliance countries. As for the nominal head of state of Earth? Haha, in addition to rumors that they have a super powerful besides, except for the planet that the Mosquito ancestor shelters, other aspects are nothing. Shut up, Suya suddenly changed her expression and shouted coldly, causing the man's voice to freeze. She gave the man a fierce look. You are just a minister sent by my father to accompany me. Please don't talk nonsense to me about this kind of thing. Don't tell me whether the people on Earth are who you say they are. Even if they are, it's their turn. I don't want similar words to come out of your mouth again without you being a mere minister to chew your tongue, do you understand? My lord, I understand. The man responded obediently, and then exited the bridge of the mothership, but his eyes flickered, and a fierce light emerged slightly. Suya watched the minister retreat, and suddenly her face changed from serious to relaxed, and a spirit that belonged only to a girl appeared on her face. If she was a graceful noble princess just now, now she has more looks that an ordinary girl should have. Earthlings, come out. Don't spread what we just said. Can you set a small goal first, such as remembering in 1 second, Shikiju mobile version reading website. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2459. Following Suya's words, a similarly handsome young man walked out silently on the bridge, which should have been absolutely deserted. I heard it, but I won't spread it. The young man spoke calmly. Judging from his facial expression, it was impossible to tell whether what he said was true or false. Damn, that look again, you know what? If you didn't have subspace abilities, I would definitely kill you. Suya changed her previous behavior of dealing with the minister man appropriately, and her expressions of laughter and curses in front of this mysterious young man were exaggerated. The young man looked at her and smiled meaningfully. The girl who was very popular in the outside world and was considered the flower of the empire showed her original appearance in front of him. For the young man, this seemed to be something that made him very happy. Your Highness Princess, of course you can kill me. If you want, maybe you can kill me by just calling a powerful person at the venerable level. But you didn't do that, which means you don't want to kill me. Is that right? The young man carelessly found a seat on the bridge and sat down. He also reached out to attract the automatic robot, picked up the drink brought by the robot, and started to drink it himself. "Earthling, what do you want?" Suya was so angry. This inexplicable young man suddenly appeared next to her during her trip on behalf of the Empire, and then said generously that he was not from their empire, but came from a place that made the Empire people sound extremely sensitive. Earth. In other words, he is a local citizen on Earth who is rarely seen outside the world. Moreover, he has the ability to lead a caravan without anyone noticing. Although it does not indicate how strong he is at least quite capable. Obtain the ability to infiltrate. This is also true. This young man actually has the ability to subspace, and will retreat into the subspace every time an outsider comes. This makes Suya even more solemn, because she remembers the rumored to be the greatest among the people on Earth. The powerful Jia Yan is a being with the talent of subspace. At that time, she asked the man's name and wanted to know if his surname was Jia. If his surname was Jia, then he must be related to Jia Yan, and he might even be his direct descendant. But the young man kept silent about this, looking quite mysterious. "I don't want anything. I just want to see what the so-called imperial people and the high-ranking people in the empire are thinking." The young man took a sip of water, then seemed to remember something and looked at the robot. "Give me a drink." The robot returned to the young man, and a bottle of red wine from the Empire slid out of the machine. The color was pure, and it was specially provided by the royal family. The bubbles and color were extremely dazzling, and the handsome young man could not help but lick his tongue. Unexpectedly, when he reached for the wine bottle, a delicate white hand stretched out from one side and took the bottle before him. Suya stood in front of the young man, looked at the young man with a suspicious face, and then asked with a strange look, "Are you over 18 years old?" "According to the laws of our empire, you are not allowed to drink alcohol if you are under 18 years old." The young man was startled for a moment, his expression seemed a little ugly, and then he immediately returned to his understatement. "If you don't want to let go, just say it clearly. What does it have to do with you whether I am 18 years old or not?" His words almost confirmed the guess that he was not yet 18 years old, and the imperial princess Suya immediately smiled happily. "Tch, what kind of master are you? It turns out you are just a little kid under the age of 18. Little kid, you shouldn't be on my boat. Wash yourself up and go home to your mother to drink milk." When the young man heard what she said, a trace of anger unique to young people appeared in his brows, but this anger was quickly suppressed by himself and returned to Gujing Fubo. He smiled mischievously. "Oh? So, princess, are you over 18? Why do I see from the information in various places that you are only 16 years old? A 16-year-old brat calls me a brat, excuse me. Your Highness, do you want face? You call me shameless. Anyway, I can tell by looking at your face that you are not as big as me, not to mention that I am already able to command such a huge caravan. What about you? You still want to touch my mothership like a petty thief. It's obvious who is the brat, right?" Suya was so angry that she almost bit her teeth off. "Really? I just don't want to. If I wanted to, I could command a fleet much larger than this at any time and anywhere, and it would be a battleship. Besides, your empire has a great cause, and you can give a princess a small caravan. Isn't it normal to have the right to command? On the contrary, it should be said that for such a big princess, you only command such a small caravan. Isn't it a bit too small to look down on you?" The young man spoke eloquently, which made Suya's veins feel a little bulging, and she wanted to punch him until they exploded. "Huh, I see, you are the Geo family. It is said that the Geo family has a rather mysterious branch. Are you a member of that branch of the Geo family? Let me think about it again. There is information that the Geo family may have a mysterious branch. A 16-year-old boy, is that you? If it is you, huh?" Suya said. Originally she wanted to shout that the young man in front of her was not as old as her, but she remembered that she had obtained this information a few months ago through the current emperor of the empire, that is, her father told her this information, and when he said it, he vaguely conveyed a message. That is, they want her to have a political marriage with this descendant of the Geo family. So when it came to this, Suya was at a loss for words. She didn't know whether she should continue to argue with the mysterious young man in front of her. If he is really a descendant of the Geo family from Earth, and he is the 16-year-old he said he was, doesn't it mean that he might become his husband? This. The young man, on the other hand, found that the girl was speechless, and his expression returned to his original expression. He took the wine bottle from the hand of the daughter of the emperor, then filled his own glass with a glass of wine, and poured it into his mouth. Cough, cough, cough. Wow, it's so spicy. Are all the wines in your empire so strong? It's so choking. He coughed, and the sense of mystery he had felt disappeared instantly. The girl was about to taunt him, but suddenly she heard a report coming from the bridge where she was only enjoying the scenery. When the door opened, the girl turned around and looked around, only to see that the chair where the boy had been sitting had long been empty, leaving only a wine glass that was shaking with wine, rippling with an intoxicating bright red color. The maid who came to serve the princess was equivalent to Suya's wet nurse, and her attitude towards the princess was a bit like a relative. So when she entered the bridge, she first saw the red wine on the chair next to Suya, her expression changed, and she stepped forward with a cold face. Your Highness Princess, you are not 18 years old yet, so do you understand that you cannot drink? If you continue to act your own way, I will not help you hide it, but will report it to the emperor and your mother. I didn't drink it. Oh, I'm sorry, I wanted to take a sip secretly, but I won't dare to do it again. Suya couldn't hold back her breath, but for the sake of concealment, she still took the blame for it by accident. It seemed that she could faintly hear a snickering sound in the subspace. The little princess's blood almost spurted out. By the way, M&M, help me investigate the affairs of the people on Earth, especially the Geo family. The maid who was putting away the wine glasses was startled for a moment, then raised her head, looking strangely at the princess she brought up, who seemed to be her own daughter. Your Highness, you are probably not interested in people from Earth. I remember you also said that people from Earth are just similar to people from our empire and are completely inferior creatures. Why now? As soon as she heard this, Suya's face changed. She knew very well that there was an Earthling in the subspace, and this person was extremely mysterious. I'm afraid his status was not low. With their empire and the Earth, the complex relationship between people, if such a young man knows what he said, it may be a big problem in the future. Ahem, I never said anything like that, M&M. Anyway, just help me investigate. Come on, goodbye. Pushing the maid who picked up the wine glass to leave, the princess closed the door and took a long breath. Have you ever said that we Earthlings are inferior creatures? Suddenly, in her ears, a young voice that she had heard just now sounded. It's just that the voice this time was quite cold. Suya was frightened for a moment, but she still acted calmly. No, I didn't know that much about people on Earth before. Besides, those words were said many years ago. You wouldn't care so much about someone who was a child at that time, would you? In other words, just because you were still a child, do you care about these honest mistakes? The young man did not respond, but after hearing her words, he gradually silently entered the depths of the subspace. Attitude determines everything. Although this young man is calm, he is not as majestic as expected. After hearing the words that slander his hometown, he cannot deal with it calmly. Feeling that the surroundings had calmed down, Suya, the young princess of the empire, took a deep breath. That damn Earth youth is so bad. As she thought about this, she couldn't help but think more deeply. If the other party is really from the Geo family from Earth, then she can understand why this young man, who feels that his strength is about heaven level, can sneak into her side. After all, even if she herself is only a junior heaven level princess, she is still an imperial princess. An ordinary heaven level person, even a heaven level person with a subspace talent, may not be able to get close to her. But things are different now. This young man has been following their caravan for a long time at least, but he has not been found out, either because of his shocking strength, or because the Empire does not want to expose him, or both. Earthlings. Humph, I still don't like them. It's simply too much to expect a race that only relies on the protection of one or two strong men to be on an equal footing with my empire. This princess is quite racist, so when she learned that she might marry an earthling, she was extremely resistant. That is, at that time, she said that the Earth was an inferior race, and the marriage failed. It was settled, and the Emperor and her mother never mentioned it again. Lord Jia Yan of Earth? He is indeed very strong. Even stronger is the master behind Lord Jia Yan, Ancestor Mosquito. If there is no Ancestor Mosquito, even if there is only one Lord Jia Yan, our empire will still be able to whirl from it. But with the addition of the Mosquito Ancestor, the strength gap is really too big, which leads to the fact that our empire has an overwhelming advantage in national power compared to the Earth, but it can still only obey the orders of the Earth in a sense, alas. When I think of Jia Yan and Mosquito Ancestor, this princess from a powerful empire, I can only sigh in despair. She can only hate that Jia Yan was born on the Earth, and his relatives, the Jia family, are now treated as equals when they meet the imperial family. Even the royal family that has been passed down for tens of thousands of years will kowtow a little. To her, this is quite an unpleasant thing. But this little princess probably never thought that Cao had arrived. Jia Yan, who has not appeared for many years and barely appeared once before the birth of the princess and the young man, and the so-called Mosquito Ancestor, have been here at peace for a while now, and the Orion arm has gradually become more connected with the outside world. With communication accelerating, revisit old places. That's right, Jia Yan, the giant mosquito, has returned to the Orion arm. Moreover, his return was more exaggerated and more despairing than the previous ones, with terrifying strength. In the subspace, there is a giant palace that is even more majestic and jaw-dropping than the giant mosquito himself, and the seemingly inconspicuous giant palace next to the palace, which can actually be regarded as the planet's Edisha, join hands and quickly enter within the Orion arm space. If it were replaced by the previous Orion arm, there would be energy blocking it, and even the shallow subspace would be blocked. But even if the shield that protects Orion's arm exists, it can't withstand these big things coming from the depths of subspace. What's more, even if it is blocked in front of him, with the terrifying energy of these two items, a collision can easily smash the shield to pieces. Their arrival did not cause any abnormality, and no powerful creature could detect their movement. Only its exaggerated figure came, but it came silently. The terrifying giant mosquito lurks in the center of the palace. Now that no one else is cultivating it in the palace, he looks a little lonely. Oh! Suddenly, when passing through a certain space, the giant mosquito was slightly surprised. Then, his brainwave power instantly moved with his consciousness, quickly sprang out, and came to the shallow part of the subspace. Even the palaces and planets that were originally moving quickly in the 10-dimensional space were like tools that could break suddenly, slowly, and silently, stopping their forward speed, and gradually exiting the 10-dimensional space. What caught his attention was an energy that was quite familiar to giant mosquitoes. Isn't this energy that belongs to me? Moreover, isn't it wrapped in the power of earth fire? Oh, I understand. It's an amulet I gave to my family before. It's interesting. I don't know who came to the edge of Orion's arm to play with it. Are you there? Let me see which one it is. Who is this? Set a small goal first, such as remembering in 1 second, Shikiju mobile version reading website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2460. Jia Yan was quite surprised that he could actually feel the power of the amulet he gave to the Jia family on the edge of Orion's arm. But what surprised him even more was that when he stopped in the palace and walked out of the deep subspace, released a little power in the shallow layer, and found out the location of his amulet and the person who owned his amulet, he found that he didn't know him at all. This guy? A very handsome young man, and he can also enter the subspace. Although he only entered the shallow subspace, his ability is pretty good, but how did he possess the amulet I gave to my family? Jia Yan was slightly stunned for a while, then carefully looked at the young man's face and the overall familiarity to him. Suddenly, he had a vague reaction. This young man looks very much like his son Jia Rong. Jia Yan remembered, isn't this his grandson Jia 11? Tisk, tisk, the last time I possessed a clone, my senses were blurry. Even the impressions and pictures transmitted to myself were quite unclear. Now look at this little guy, he is really majestic, handsome, really he's very handsome, he looks like his grandfather. Very good. Jia Yan almost rushed out to meet Jia 11. However, considering that he was in the body of a giant mosquito and not an earthling like Jia Yan, he still endured it. Jia Yan knew very well that his parents, sister, and others might have a rough guess about him being a giant mosquito, but the younger generations who followed him might not have a clear idea. Even his son knew about this fact. You have to talk about both, let alone your grandson. It is better not to contact him in a hurry and cause more trouble to the child. As for this little guy's mysterious subspace ability in the eyes of others, to Jia Yan, who has reached the level of a senior domain master, it is no different than a child playing house. Despite Jia Yan's huge body, if he wanted to, he would not be able to notice such a huge body running behind a young man. This is the horror of the huge difference in strength. I didn't ask much last time. Does it turn out that he also has subdimensional abilities? That's right. After all, he has a genetic fragment of my body and the amulet I gave him. Under the nourishment of energy, this little guy's good genes have exploded. It's normal to slowly develop subspace abilities. Does it already have my body's subspace fusion ability? Jia Yan nodded, as if he was praising the young man's talent. Of course, this talent is only within the Jia family. If it is put to the outside world, let alone compared with the geniuses in the central star field of the Milky Way or even the superstars, even if it is a genius from a nearby star field, little Jia 11 will be a bit behind. It's cruel to say it, but this is the reality. Even Jia Yan can't help change things like talent. But if he really wants to do it, he can find a way to make a life form with average talent reach or exceed the strength of an ordinary talent. The reason is very simple, he is a senior domain master. Throwing massive resources at it, even if it was a pig, Jia Yan was sure that it would unlock its IQ and then embark on the path of cultivation. At least in this Orion Arms, Xiao 11's talent is considered to be first class. Well, if you have a chance, ask him what path he wants to take. This talent is better than his father's. If he wants to embark on a serious career, the road to cultivation, maybe the half-star road that his father couldn't walk, but he can walk through it. Jia Yan was thinking about it, but while inadvertently observing Jia 11, he made other discoveries. This young man is actually following an imperial merchant ship in subspace. Watching him go in and out of the subspace. When he was hungry, he went out to eat some food from the merchant ship. When he was tired, he went to the corner of the merchant ship to sleep. It was very comfortable. He also often visited the merchant ship's highest status, the imperial princess Suya. After teasing the little girl in his boudoir and then running away, Jia Yan felt that this boy was so awesome. Damn it, is this kid trying to pick up girls? This guy is much better than his grandfather and me. If I had had this idea of picking up girls, I would have ended my single life long ago. Gee, Why do I feel so sour? Feeling tired. Jia Yan was depressed. He followed this boy for 2 days, but ended up eating a mouthful of dog food. He decided not to follow this boy. However, there is a mysterious force in the subspace. Through the subspace, without causing Jia 11 to notice it, it pours into the small amulet he wears. You must know that the amulets worn by Jia 11 and other family members were made by his clone using the technology of yin and yang. Even though it took a lot of energy from the clone and even caused a lot of losses to the real body, no matter the energy utilization rate of the clone, or Jia Yan's strength at that time, is far from the level he is now in person. So even if Jia Yan just releases a burst of energy this time, it will be at least 10 times more effective than the original amulet. This is much better. This kid likes to run around, and there are more dangers. Giving him stronger protection can be regarded as the care of my grandfather as an elder, haha. Jia Yan felt that he had become older now that he had returned to the Orion arm. After all, in this star field where strength is insufficient and there are not many strong people, so the overall lifespan is young, more than 100 years old is already old. To the outside world, he is a senior domain lord who is only over 100 years old, and his genius is extremely surprising. But in this Orion arm, few people have heard of Territory Lord. In their eyes, Territory Lord is no different from ordinary Zengetsu, because they are as scary as gods. In other words, no matter how powerful or terrifying Jia Yan is, he still has the same status. Now that a god has reached the top, you will still be a god if you continue to practice. Jia Yan did not return to the palace this time, but traveled physically in the subspace. The huge palace and the Edessa star followed Jia Yan under the control of Edessa. Master, this Orion arm has changed a lot. Last time we came back, we didn't have much communication with the outside world, but this time there is a lot more. Editha transforms into a huge light and shadow mosquito, which looks about the same size as Jia Yan. Anyway, it doesn't consume much energy to create a light and shadow body. As long as it is not excessive, it can make the light and shadow body as big as it likes. Yes, it seems to have changed a bit. It's a pity that the battle lines and other things we used to do in the past have become relics. Many places have even been demolished and will never be seen again. Jia Yan sighed. You know, he had put out fires in the entire Orion arm, fought on all fronts, and now he was flying all the way. Because the speed had become faster for some unknown reason, he quickly swept over the impressive places he looked at, but not many places have disappeared. After all, the original defense line was exchanged for a large amount of resources. Now that the war has passed for decades, those resources that can be reused will naturally be used by various local countries, and the relics of various wars have gradually become not enough. I can understand it, but seeing the facts before my eyes still makes me feel a little uncomfortable. You know, when he was in the Orion arm, he fought more than one battle, and the enemies he faced were not very weak. It's all Jia Yan's memory. It's a pity that except for some important battle places, most of them have disappeared. But Master, you see, after passing through that starry sky just now, the children inside were flying in the starry sky on airships to study. If it weren't for the help of combat, I'm afraid they would be living a different life now. I think they would all think of what they were like back then. His deeds will be written into textbooks and recorded in history for a long time, so you don't have to feel sad. Adisha is so powerful now and understands people's hearts. Jia Yan couldn't help but look at this increasingly humanized brain. I'm afraid if it was given a body, it would become just like a real person. Edisha, remembering the past and feeling melancholy are natural things for intelligent beings, so I'm not feeling sad, just sighing. If you want to get closer to a normal life, you have to understand these more carefully. Jia Yan has never forgotten his promise to Edisha to let her become a normal life, or try to be as indistinguishable from a normal life as possible. So when this kind of Edisha is slightly incorrect, he will correct it. In fact, what he said to Edissa at this time was no longer right or wrong. Edissa was right to comfort him, but she didn't expect that Jia Yan was not sad at all, but just a little melancholy in his heart. Such details, people, there is no complete agreement with other people, so no one can say whether what he said to Edissa is absolutely correct. Okay, Edissa will write it down. Editha nodded her head. It seems that Jia Yan is teaching it, but it understands that sometimes similar words are the deep meaning of life. If it understands, I am afraid it will be closer to real life. I used to swim around in Orion's arms, and it was hard to come down within a few months. Now I can complete it in more than 10 days. It's faster to walk in a straight line. The change in my strength is really earth-shaking. Jia Yan sighed. Walking through a star field, hundreds of light years, was really far away at first. Now, the real body can walk across it very quickly. This is not a long-distance movement method. If you move at a speed of 10 degrees of space, then just faster. Gradually, the entire galaxy, which I thought was quite huge, has become much smaller. He really sighed. After making the trip to the central star field of the Milky Way, his way of looking at the entire starry sky and the universe has changed a lot. The distance of 50,000 to 60,000 light-years back and forth, including the time for breakthroughs and adventures, did not take him more than 40 years, maybe only about 30 years. In such a short time, he went to the center of the Milky Way and walked around. Not to mention that he could not imagine it before, even if he thinks about it now, it is like a dream, full of unreality. The Milky Way's thinking could no longer restrain Jia Yan. As he moved, he really wanted to go further. That's when he suddenly came up with the idea, is there life outside the Milky Way? If there is life, does it have a powerful organism? If there is, will it develop a surging strong system like the Milky Way, and even turn the entire galaxy into a paradise for the strong? Actually, if you want to go, it is really possible to go. For example, the large and small Magellanic Clouds, which are very close to the Milky Way, are more than 100,000 light-years away, and the other is 200,000 light-years away. At my speed, it may only take 10 years. Or we can get there in 20 years. But no point. So what if I go? So what if we discovered the strong system? Jia Yan is not a person who has a strong thirst for knowledge. In his life, he has always worked hard to become stronger. If he ran such a long distance just to satisfy his thirst for knowledge, he would waste so much time on the way. It is possible that he would not do it in the face of unforeseen risks. I still have a long life, and there are too many places in the Milky Way that I have not yet explored, as well as more mysterious phenomena and things. It will take me a long time to experience them. As for other galaxies, maybe one day I am stronger and have lived long enough, or maybe there is something I want in other galaxies, something that can increase my level, so I might risk my life to find out. Jia Yan shook his head deeply. In fact, he didn't want to explore more places, and there was another fact in front of him that made all living beings despair. That is, no matter how he explores, even if he is terrifyingly powerful, even if he transcends the Milky Way and is the strongest ever, he will never be able to explore the entire universe, because the universe is too big. It is said that the observable universe is more than 900 light-years away. But on alien planets with more advanced technology, Jia Yan knew from more works of cosmic scientists that these more than 900 light-years are just because light has only traveled more than 900 light-years from the birth of the universe to now. The actual universe, based on the expansion speed at the beginning of its birth, is far faster than the speed of light, so its actual size is probably more than 90 billion light-years in diameter. The observable universe is more than 90 billion light-years in size, which makes the entire Milky Way smaller than a grain of sand. So it is likely that the real universe is countless trillions of times the size of the observable universe. Is so big that ordinary life cannot even imagine it. For example, If Jia Yan is strong enough and incredibly strong, he can destroy the observable universe that is currently 90 billion light-years in size with one slap. So suppose he has enough ability to destroy a space the size of the observable universe in 1 second, and then he has a lifespan of 100 million years and spends his whole life photographing the starry sky, one observable universe in 1 second. Then, he may not be able to destroy the current universe in his lifetime. That's right, it's impossible to photograph an area of more than 90 billion light-years in 1 second. Even if you give it a lifespan of tens of billions or hundreds of billions of years, it's still impossible, because the real universe is just that big. Precisely because they understand how terrible the real universe is and how meaningless it is to pursue exploration of it, most of the powerful people in the galaxy have chosen to ignore other galaxies. Even if there are many existences, there is enough strength to explore other galaxies, but they still ignore it. In the vast universe of Nyata, you want to spend your whole life exploring, but in the end you will only get full of disappointment, because no matter how hard you try, you will always be able to explore only the tip of the iceberg of the universe. This is the tragedy of the strong, and it is also the tragedy of the intelligent life race that is determined to explore the universe, because this is the real despair. Set a small goal first, such as remembering in 1 second, Shikiju mobile version reading website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2461. Earth. Or should I say, the Earth Alliance home planet. Since the catastrophe of the entire Earth more than 100 years ago, also known as the Metal Crisis in later generations, not only have the people on Earth not been destroyed in this apocalyptic catastrophe, but because of the help of the giant mosquito clan, they have become real treadmills. The primary civilization that entered the universe. Should the Earth after that be said to be a blessing in disguise, or should it be said that it was forcibly pulled into the history of the universe? In short, what happened next was spectacular. People on Earth, who had just stepped into the ranks of cosmic beings for more than 100 years, quickly experienced the feeling of the universe unveiling its mystery bit by bit. Among today's older generation, there are still many old people from that era who were in relatively high positions and received the latest new drugs. They are even rejuvenated. People who are 100 or even close to 200 years old are still living well. Morning. Ah, good morning, Grandpa John. Oh, I envy you, Grandpa John. My grandpa looked like this when I was just a few years old. Now my hair is white, and you still look like this. One day I can also become an intern at a pharmaceutical company. The pharmacist will be fine. A man in a straight suit greeted another middle-aged man with graying hair, but strangely, it was a young man who was called Grandpa. I'll ask you next time I have a chance, Xiao Su. I'll see you in the evening. Okay, Grandpa John, have a nice trip. Men in neat suits wear glasses. This is not very common on the Earth today, because medicine has developed to the point where it is easy to treat human myopia. There is a high probability that even congenital amblyopia and blindness can be cured. Well, it's nothing more than a matter of money. At least myopia is easy to treat. You can find a small clinic to help cure it painlessly and without side effects. This man with glasses has actually cured his eyes a long time ago. The reason why he wears glasses now is very simple, that is, he is used to wearing glasses. If he didn't wear glasses, he would be quite uncomfortable. After all, I have been wearing glasses for hundreds of years. Of course, he had another reason for wearing glasses. That is his current family, who have long been accustomed to him wearing glasses. The glasses are like his representative appearance. If he gives them up easily, I am afraid that even his family will not be able to get used to them. Family. Haha, in order to survive, I set foot in the dark world. I originally thought that I would never have the daily life and family in my life. Now I have them all. If only the few friends who died at that time knew my current life. Maybe even your jaw will drop. Unfortunately, they are no longer here, and I don't even have a few old friends. This young man with glasses, who looks like a young man, but whose eyes are actually full of vicissitudes of life, is the glasses killer who was active in ancient China a long time ago. That is, he was one of the two killers who had several entanglements with Jia Yan when he was a child. He seemed to be capable, but in fact he was not very capable. He and his former teammates have beards. Both of them have become old men over 100 years old. They have made great efforts in the development of the entire Earth, but in the end, they are far behind in terms of ability and fighting talent. The young people who came first, so until now, they have gradually retreated into the background. Toot toot. Suddenly, the bespectacled man driving the car heard a call from inside the car. Switch to full self-driving mode and answer the call for me. Ding. As the bespectacled man said to switch to automatic driving, the car smoothly switched to computer driving mode. In today's interstellar era, autonomous driving on the road has long become mainstream. In autonomous driving mode, cars are even safer than those driven by ordinary drivers. Even actions that can only be performed by super racers can be easily performed by computers. Therefore, many countries and localities have tried to legislate several times, passing the bill to ban manual driving and advancing the illegal manual driving bill and other laws. In the end, these laws were not passed because there are still a large number of experienced drivers in the world who prefer manual driving. This allows elderly people like the bespectacled man to survive the addiction of manual driving. However, young people who are highly accepting of manual driving often ridicule these old drivers who like manual driving, mocking them as a group of old men and women who endanger public safety. No matter which era, the most vocal people are often young people, especially on the internet. The older generation is sprayed to pieces by young people in their 20s and 30s, but they generally just choose to tolerate it, because they were also from the beginning. There is no reason for people to criticize older people as old fogies because they have come to criticize young and energetic people. Hey, Dad, I'm home. Guess what I brought you back? The car was driving at a constant speed, almost motionless, and the other vehicles that had been hiding from the manual driving car were able to walk alongside it with a sigh of relief. The man with glasses sat in the driver's seat, looked at the pop-up screen, saw the beautiful and charming woman on the screen, and then sighed. What did you bring me? Let me guess, is it a souvenir from another planet? Or some souvenir of the Mosquito ancestors? Or, you really found a boyfriend for your parents this time? Dad, please stop asking about your boyfriend, okay? I will never find a boyfriend in this life. Oh, I really don't know what's going on with you two sisters. Day by day, you never let your parents worry. I won't tell you anymore. Come back later and I'll show you what I brought back. If I don't come back, I might have to go out for a few more years. The other party hung up the communication angrily. The bespectacled man sitting in the driver's seat rubbed his forehead helplessly, feeling that there was nothing he could do. He and his wife, Jia Lin, have 2 daughters, but both of them have reached this age and they still don't make it easy for adults. Especially the youngest daughter Jiruo, who was very well behaved and sensible when she was young, but when she grew up, she became obsessed with practicing and going on adventures in alien planets. She is already in her late 60s, and yet she is not even married. Although the physiological structure and medical technology of people on Earth have developed now, in theory it is no problem to get married at 100 years old, but people's hearts are not so easy to change. If you don't get married at such an old age, you will still act like a child every day. Aren't you afraid of people talking about it? Oh, by the way, this child runs around aliens all day long. I'm afraid the aliens are older than her. The man with glasses felt like he was about to have a heart attack. After sitting down for a while, he gave the order to drive the car to the other side of the city. In fact, in addition to being a centenarian, having been in the dark world before, and having contributed a lot to the development of the Earth, he actually has another, greater identity. Even this identity is so terrifying that if he, after all, the familiar neighbors around him will be obedient to him. If he goes to an alien planet, any interstellar civilization within Orion's arms will welcome him. That is, he is the son-in-law of the top wealthy family in the entire Orion arm, the Geo family. You know, just saying this identity will make any civilization in the entire Orion arm restless. The Geo family seems to be an ordinary earthly family. Even now, the total population of the family is still small. However, if anyone steps out of this small population, his kick can make Orion's arm faintly shake. The reason is very simple, because this member of the Geo family is the strongest person on Earth who was in danger and in danger at the Orion arm. He withstood all the pressure and fought against the enemy's strong ones. He is the strongest person today, and he is far beyond ordinary people on Earth. Terrifying character Jia Yan. Moreover, behind Jia Yan, there is the Mosquito ancestor who claims to be Jia Yan's master. His strength is even less powerful. Anyway, every time he takes action against the Mosquito ancestor or the little giant mosquito sent by the Mosquito ancestor, it's so terrifying that it makes people feel trembling. Speaking of which, on today's Earth, humans have developed drugs and equipment that can effectively prevent mosquito bites. Therefore, people on the entire Earth are infinitely tolerant of mosquitoes. There are even people who worship mosquitoes, feed them with their bodies, or feed them to their relatives. A large number of mosquitoes were raised to show their worship and admiration for the giant mosquito clan. Although the Earth Alliance has issued statements more than once or twice, saying that mosquitoes have nothing to do with the giant mosquito family, everyone should not treat ordinary mosquitoes like that, and mosquitoes are still pests that spread viruses and endanger health. But with little effect. Even the admiration for mosquitoes has been passed on to many other starry sky civilizations within the Orion arm. It is said that many wealthy people in the civilization are quite keen to purchase mosquitoes sold from the Earth. Moreover, due to the long distance of transportation, and even the native creatures of the Earth are pests, but on alien planets it would be extremely difficult to feed them due to environmental and food problems, so their prices were once sky high. Under this ridiculous situation, the mosquitoes on the Earth have become overwhelming, almost affecting the ecological balance, but mosquitoes are hard to find on alien planets, which really makes the high-level officials and biologists on the Earth miserable. What makes them even more surprised and at a loss is that after many scientists' investigations and sampling, a rumor has been vaguely spread among the upper levels of the Earth, that is, the mosquitoes on the Earth may really be the same as those of the giant mosquito family. There might be a slight connection between them, because the biological structures are so similar. Of course, this is just an urban legend, because after communicating with outside civilizations, the Earth has discovered that not only mosquitoes can also find similar ones in the outside world, but even intelligent civilizations can be found on many planets several light years away. They are all inhabited by races that look similar to the people on Earth. Even the Empire or some small civilizations have almost the same appearance and physical features as the people on Earth. There are several races that have no racial barriers with the people on Earth and can easily combine with each other. Give birth to mixed-race children between civilizations, and these mixed-race children have better genes, and they are all handsome men and beautiful women. No matter how you say it, the Earth has not experienced many evil changes, and is generally developing in a good and more civilized and developed direction. Including the Geo family, their status is becoming more and more consolidated, and because of their mystery, the public knows little about the details of the Geo family's life and some family members, leading to countless people secretly speculating about the Geo family. Countless authors from the Earth Alliance and alien civilizations have also derived from it, and countless authors of the Earth Alliance and alien civilizations have come up with such things as rebirth of the Geo family as a rich family, secrets that the young master of the Geo family and I have to tell, and tonight Mr. Gia knocked on my door, I married the princess of the Geo family and other hot-selling stories. Those readers on Earth who love novels discovered that other civilizations in the starry sky also like similar themes. When they searched outside, they suddenly seemed to have discovered a new world. After all, the outside world has a much larger population than Earth's civilization, and there are many more good books to read. Especially after the Geo family theme became popular in the entire Orion Arm, probably trillions of people in the entire Orion Arm are watching this kind of theme, making the novel readers seem to be in a carnival, with so many masterpieces that they will never see them in a lifetime. Over. However, similar themes have gradually become less common recently. After all, the Geo family has a tolerance level. It's okay if you write about the pseudonyms of the Geo family in the parallel world, but some excessive naming and surnames, or even fictional characters of the current Geo family, are intolerable. So after a few words, more than half of the similar themes in the entire Orion Arm civilization were lost in an instant. Tap tap tap. The bespectacled man opened the car door and was greeted respectfully by a group of receptionists around him. He smiled and nodded to them, and then walked towards the side gate of the parking lot. This is the parking lot gate of Geo's house. We have to go further in to find the real Geo family. There are 40 or 50 people working in the parking lot alone, and each of them possesses terrifying combat power, not to mention the venerable existence within the Geo family who will be there for a long time, plus the possible protection of Jia Yan. This means that all the forces and strong men who want to make plans have stopped thinking. There are even rumors recently that each of the Geo family members may carry combat weapons with them. The reason is that the last time a Geo family member's crew spaceship was attacked by unknown forces on its way to a state visit to a civilization, but that battle ended in as a result, the cruise ship, whose defensive strength was completely inferior to the opponent's, won the battle, and the entire fleet of the attacking force was destroyed, and the terrifying power swept across the entire starry sky. Since then, no one dared to provoke the Geo family anymore, and their status as the top wealthy family in the starry sky has become more stable. No civilization or force dares to deny or challenge it. Haha, Dad, are you planting trees again? After the man with glasses walked into the gate of the parking lot, he saw a hard-working man within 10 minutes and greeted him with a smile. If outsiders knew that this man was the most respected and senior member of the Geo family today, their jaws would probably drop. This middle-aged and elderly man is not as majestic as everyone imagines, nor is he as wise as many novels imply. He is just an ordinary gardener at home, an ordinary old man who works hard and enjoys the joy of farming and weaving. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2462. Oh, Xiaoao, you're back. Haven't you been pretending to be an ordinary person and living in the city recently? Why are you free? It was Xiaoruo who asked me to come back. She said she would be there soon, and she was so mysterious that she didn't know what kind of medicine was sold in the gourd. Xiaoruo is coming back too. We haven't seen each other for several years. Okay, I'll tell her grandma right now. The old woman has been talking about Xiaoruo recently. I really want them to have a good meeting this time. The elderly man took out his communicator and dialed a certain number. Not long after, the communicator was connected, and the person on the other side quickly expressed joyfully that he wanted to see his granddaughter. In this way, the old man dialed messages for many people, and then he and the man with glasses walked to one of the several villas at home. What a coincidence, there are quite a lot of people on Earth today, and our family can spend some time together as a family after a long absence. Haha, Dad, what you said is that if you want to see us, you can tell us anytime and anywhere. None of us can't say it, right? My old man is not confused. Now, both of you are busy. Forget it. According to the doctor, we two immortals can live for 1 or 200 years, or even longer. If I don't bother you, our days are still alive. Long, ha ha ha. Today, the eldest Jia family, Jia's father, Jia Sheng, is no longer the harsh person he was at the beginning. He is no longer obsessed with the abilities of his children or the deeds of his younger generations. He is over 100 years old. Contrary to his appearance, he has become a real old man. He doesn't want to care about anything and just wants to live his own life in peace. There is no way, the younger generations of the family no longer need his worry and control. Sternness and harshness have become a thing of the past, and all that is left is just a simple and unpretentious old man. Dang dang dang. Guess what I brought back when I went out this time? A few more hours passed, and a beautiful earthling with a high spirit landed from a small airship, and then happily went straight to the main house of the Jia family, which was also the main place where Jia Sheng and his children gathered together this time. Xiaoruo, how old are you? You still look like a child. Some of the people in the past became grandmothers when they reached your age. Jia Mu looked at the approaching beauty with great anger. Ha ha ha, Grandma, you said I was from the past, but now is the interstellar era, okay. The optimal childbearing age has been extended to 60. Do you think I still need to be the same as the people in the past? You're so skinny, how dare you contradict Grandma? On one side, a woman who looked very similar to Jiamu gave her a hard look. The beautiful Jiaruo couldn't help but shrink her head. Mom, I just said that, don't take it seriously. Okay, don't talk about Ruruo. Today's young people are not from our era, not to mention that one day we may bring back a great-great-grandson. Haha, Ruruo, Grandpa guess, are you again? Did you come back after finding some weird alien specialties? Jia Sheng was on the side to help smooth things over, saving Jiaruo, who was already several decades old, from being missed by her grandma and mother again. No, I didn't bring any souvenirs this time. Jiaruo smiled mysteriously. Are those weird mosquitoes again, the remains of the mosquito ancestors? Jia Sheng was a little surprised. In the past, Jiaruo happily brought back these two things. Isn't it the same today? That's wrong. Although I did bring some of these two things, the main thing this time is not them. Grandpa, Grandma, and Mom and Dad, you guess again. Several Jia family members present looked at each other. I really can't guess. Forget it, Xiaoruo, stop being so pretentious. We, in fact, have never been interested in the things you brought back. We can't guess it no matter how we guess it. Finally, the bespectacled man who had been standing aside for a long time, who was also Jiaruo's parents, spoke. If you don't talk, the conversation will be dead today. After all, no one can guess the hobbies of your precious little daughter. Seeing that he couldn't arouse more curiosity, Jiaruo suddenly felt helpless. Forget it, let me reveal the answer to the mystery. Actually, you all guessed in the wrong direction. What I brought back this time is not an object, but a person. People. Who? Now, everyone feels quite interesting again. Jiaruo can bring someone back. I don't know if everyone in the family knows each other. Could it be that he is her boyfriend? Immediately, Jiamu and Jialin both glowed with quite gossipy joy. After all, Jiaruo's lifelong event has been a headache for them for a long time. If she can bring it back, it will be a settlement for them. Pity. But the answer Jiaruo gave disappointed them all. Ha ha ha, this person I brought is. We're almost here on Earth, right? Haha, security equipment can be set up in this starry sky. People on Earth are really making progress. In the very deep place of subspace, a huge mosquito is flying inside the subspace. Behind him was a huge palace that was much more exaggerated than his body, and a planet that was much smaller than the palace. He was about to return to Earth today, and Jia Yan couldn't help but feel a little uneasy, so during the process, he personally flew to the 10-dimensional subspace and observed the starry sky outside the subspace while flying. The people on Earth have already formed the Earth Alliance, and as early as Jia Yan transformed into a giant mosquito and fought hard on the Earth, they already had a tendency to immigrate to Mars and other planets. Now, decades have passed, and these immigration affairs have been supported by the technology and technical talents of outside civilizations. They have already been in full swing, and have evolved to large and small planets, satellites, and even many asteroids with human traces. The entire human race on Earth seems to have achieved a triple jump. From low-level technology to high-end culture, there have been extremely obvious changes. You know, all of this evolved within 3 or 4 generations. From a civilization that was about to become extinct at first, it has become a civilization with traces all over the galaxy, and even many people on Earth have the ability to go out to other civilizations or to other places. Traveling and exploring the star country is no longer something that can be described simply by using a triple jump. What a pity. It can be seen that most of the credit for this was not done by the people on Earth themselves. Most of the people with basic technology and scientific research abilities are aliens. The people on Earth have become a race greedy for pleasure. After Jia Yan entered the territory of the solar system, he saw aliens more than once, and even the number of aliens can be said to be almost everywhere in the solar system. They are often engaged in relatively high-end jobs, even if it is impossible to mix. Even at the top, he is still the backbone of many affairs. In other words, if the people on Earth do not have a relatively unique interstellar status, I am afraid that it is uncertain whether today's Earth Alliance can fully control the resources of the solar system. The solar system, which I thought was so big at first, has arrived so quickly. Earth. From a distance, Jia Yan directly saw the innermost star of the solar system from the outer periphery of the solar system, followed by the major planets following this star, advancing rapidly in a spiral shape. There is a bright blue one among them, which is the Earth. The original home star, now the Earth Alliance home star, is also where the headquarters is located. From the current point of view, it is really small, a very small planet, and it is very ordinary. It is much more beautiful than before. Although it is not as beautiful as the more beautiful living planets I have seen, this planet is my home planet, and the feelings are naturally unique. Haha, and there are so many familiar atmospheres on it, tisk, parents, sister, brother-in-law, Jia Yan soon realized that there were many familiar gas stars in that beautiful blue planet. With his current ability, he can even easily wrap his energy around the entire Earth from 10 degrees of subspace and observe the feeling of any breath inside. But when he carefully explored those familiar scents, he discovered another discovery that surprised him. This is an atmosphere that is no more unfamiliar than that of his parents and sister. It can even be said that the relationship is closer. Because he is his wife, and when she returned with the clone last time, she was not originally in Satsuma Hall on Earth. Didn't I tell you that Satsuma-chan rarely returns to Earth, and yet he is actually on Earth? To say that Jia Yan was particularly surprised is not surprising. After all, it is still possible to contact his family in Satsuma Shrine. Many times he would come back to reunite with Jia's family during festivals or his family's birthdays. However, Jia Yan should be more careful about such a coincidence. But after this feeling that was not too surprising, when Jia Yan was a little curious, he turned his exploratory energy gaze to the 3 or 4-year-old girl who was following Satsumadori with big eyes and pulled the corner of Satsumadori's clothes. But he suddenly froze. What's this? How can it be? After a moment, Jia Yan only felt that the world and the world were no longer his, and reality was far away from him. You know, he is a senior domain master. But how terrifying it must be that even such a senior territory lord, who has an extremely strong and terrifying character and is quite determined, has such a big turmoil in his mind. The reason for this horror is quite simple. Because Jia Yan discovered that the 3 or 4-year-old girl who followed the Satsuma niche seemed to have just disembarked from a small airship and then greeted the Jia family. It seemed, maybe, probably, with his Jia Yan genes. That's right. In other words, this little girl seems to be Jia Yan's child. In addition, it seems that she is not a child created by Satsuma Gori again through genetic manipulation or something. Rather, it looks like a normal pregnancy. Is it because? Jia Yan recalled strangely that 5 or 6 years ago, he seemed to have used his clone to reunite with Satsuma's sovereign for a few days. After that, his clone's thoughts returned to his real body, and he never bothered about matters here again. Could it be that it was at that time that he left a child for Satsuma-chan? Didn't I say that it is extremely difficult for super strong people to keep children? This. Jia Yan was embarrassed, but he was also a little surprised. Although he had said in the past that he would treat Jiarong as his own child, in fact it was almost too much, but after all, he was a son created by Satsuma Temple through genetic optimization. For Jia Yan, how could this always be the case? It feels weird. Especially when he saw Jiarong and his grandson Jia 11, they looked so handsome. Jia Yan thought they looked like him, but did they really look like them? If he had been so handsome back then, I'm afraid he would have ended his single life long ago. Therefore, although I am not dissatisfied with my son, there is still a trace of regret. Even for that clone, in fact, when Jia Yan was making it, he looked for a trace of the genes of the earthlings that he left on the earth, such as hair and dandruff found in the corner of his home, and then injected it into himself, the human clone of Earth. In other words, the child left behind by the clone is no longer much different from the child left behind by Jia Yan when he was a human on Earth. As for the fact that the child's mother is not an earthling, there is no problem in today's Earth, and Jia Yan, an old alien, has no prejudice against it. Haven't you seen so many men on Earth marrying alien wives? This is also called following the trend, okay. But is this really my child? I have another child, and she is such a cute little girl. Compared to Jiarong, she looks more like an ordinary girl. Well, the appearance is also very perfect, but the genes are almost meaningless. There are too many the mixed feelings of earthlings. Satsumaden, don't even say a word to me. He gave a wry smile. Then, Jia Yan thought for a while. Finally, he decided to reveal himself. This time he wanted to show his clone and his real body together. Both children were raised by Satsuma alone, and neither of them seemed to have turned into bad children, which showed that Satsuma, who seemed to be unkind, was really good at raising children. She has worked hard, and she should also contribute. Thinking of this, Jia Yan first returned to the Edisha star. Edisha, get ready. The palace is going to show up this time. In addition, Edisha star is also going to show up. I'm going to prepare some gifts. What? Let's divide it into several items. In addition, I'll prepare some gifts, good things for the All-Earth Alliance. Since I want to give gifts to my family, I feel a little sorry if I don't bring people from Earth along with me. With his current ability, it can be said that it is easy to protect the Earth Alliance. Didn't you see that the magic weapon he just created has its own ability to fight against the first-level powerhouses of the galaxy? Now I am willing to come all the way back for a show, but it would be unreasonable if I were not willing to give up that little material. Especially when he has a child, how can he be stingy? This little guy seems to be a bit timid, then make something suitable for her, my daughter, Jia Yan, Jia Yandu smiled foolishly. We haven't officially met yet, but this almost 100-year-old guy has almost become a slave to his daughter. At this moment, the Geo family on Earth still don't know that the greatest member of this family has now become a legend, or a part of myth, and has returned to the Earth after a long absence. Set a small goal first, such as remembering in 1 second, Shikiju mobile version reading website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2463. The Geo family looked at the shy little girl hugging her mother's thigh with the same surprised eyes as Jia Yan. Wow, so cute. Is this my sister? Jiaruo was the first to jump up and wanted to hug the little girl. Mother. The little girl cowered at the foot of the Satsuma niche in fear and was about to cry. When everyone was surprised by this little girl, another spacecraft from outside the Earth landed at the port after going through complicated procedures. Don't be too surprised. Xiaorong will be back today, and my sister will be here, as I promised. Jiaruo said this, and then he saw his parents, grandparents, and others, and he was even more happy. He suddenly felt that he had done the right thing by checking the family's rest time early and letting them all return to Earth for a fun time. The status of the Geo family has increased, and they have developed in many aspects because of their respective ideas and dreams. For example, Jiaruo has become an explorer, walking throughout the Orion Arm, and is known as having more extensive exchanges with alien civilizations. Another example is Jiarong, who chose to guard the Orion Arm frontier in order to make himself a stronger person and get as close as possible to the goal he wanted to surpass, but which might be difficult to surpass in his lifetime. Another example is Satsuma Kana. Although she is an Earthling's daughter-in-law, she misses her hometown and most of the time returns to her hometown of Grey Star to gather with her family. Except for Jia's parents, Jia Lin and his wife, and their eldest niece Jia Qi, who serve in the Earth Alliance, so they can come back often, the others are not on Earth all year round, and the possibility of getting together is very low. Are they all back? It's great. We haven't been together like this for several years. Alas, your uncle is missing. It's a pity, it's a pity. Jia Mu knew that everyone was rushing home, and she was so moved that she wanted to cry. However, she felt a little sad when she remembered that the son she had not seen for the longest time was not there. Well, in the minds of the Geo family, this uncle actually has quite complicated emotions for them. After all, Jia Yan's identity is a secret to the elders. Although the juniors didn't ask anything, they still found it strange. Because they understand the rise of the Geo family better than the ordinary people who are talking about it. They understand that this Jia Yan is a super strong person who appeared in the family out of nowhere. He seemed to have disappeared for a few years and suddenly became a super strong person. Appeared, and the relationship with the family became distant, as if they were family members, but also seemed not to be family members. So when Jia Mu said this, everyone was silent for a moment, and they didn't know how to reply to the old man. Okay, it's rare that they all come back today. Don't think too much. Forget it if Xiao Yan doesn't come back. Let's have a good chat with him next time. It's not like he won't come back. Jia's father, Jia Sheng, was the first to comfort him. Anyway, this situation has happened countless times. Xiao Yan. At this time, the little girl hiding behind her mother's Satsuma niche innocently muttered the name, then thought about it and smiled. This is Daddy, she said. Puff. When the little girl said this, a thick palm gently rubbed the little girl's head, rubbing her little cute head until the hair stood on end. Huh. The little girl didn't know why, but she wasn't frightened. Instead, she felt that the big hand was so warm and gave her a very familiar feeling. Yes, Xiao Yan is the father, and the father is me. Hello, my daughter. A gentle voice came from the mouth of the palm owner. The little girl turned around, and everyone also turned around at this moment. Everyone was stunned. Because the man who appeared next to this little girl was none other than Jia Yan, who had appeared 5 or 6 years ago. He was also the elusive pillar and only pillar of the Jia family. Ah, uncle. Jiaruo was stunned and couldn't help but shout out their sister's nickname for Jia Yan. Xiao Yan. Elder brother. Hello, brother-in-law. Several people nearby were shocked by Jia Yan's appearance and hurriedly said hello. This member of the family seems to be a member of the family, but even these family members regard him as a godlike existence in most cases. Regardless of status or ability, they understood that there was a huge difference between Jia Yan and them. Of course, the affection between family members is still strong, but because of some reasons that are not convenient to tell others, there is still a slight estrangement. Of course, family members are still family members. Brother, it turns out you are back on Earth. Why didn't you inform us earlier so we could prepare? Jia Lin was the first to come forward, and her attitude towards Jia Yan was extremely friendly. Perhaps as the person who was closest to the giant mosquito at that time, her feelings for Jia Yan were the most consistent with her recognition that he was her biological brother. Bar. Haha, didn't I just come back? And I don't know when I'm going to leave. I thought I wouldn't make too much of a fuss, so I came by myself. Jia Yan looked at his sister. In fact, this is of course not the real Jia Yan, but the Jia Yan clone that Jia Yan once left behind on Earth. Both in appearance and interior, it is very similar to the Earthling Jia Yan. Yes, just come back. Don't let others make big moves, otherwise the whole Earth will be moved. It would be too extravagant and wasteful. Jia Shen didn't think too much and directly agreed with Jia Yan's statement. But the bespectacled killer's son-in-law on one side. As someone who once served in a high-level position on Earth and now still bears the title of high-level manager, he knew very well that if Jia Yan showed up with great fanfare, he would say that he was from an alien planet. When you return, no matter how grand the Earth is in welcoming you, it will all be a profit. Because Jia Yan's reputation is so great, many people have recently begun to spread propaganda, saying that this uncrowned king who deserves to be the Earth's people is no longer on the Earth. Otherwise, the Earth has encountered several major difficulties in recent years. Why is this most important person not seen? A strong person comes forward to help? Of course, he wouldn't say this in a disrespectful way. Jia Yan had already come back, so it would be an afterthought to say it at this time. Moreover, Jia Yan always had his own reasons for not wanting to make a big splash. He felt that it might be difficult for him to figure out the reason for that kind of existence. Of course, he might not have thought that Jia Yan didn't think that much at all, he just didn't want everyone to know about it, it was too troublesome. Husband. Jia Yan didn't react to the other words, but the expressionless Satsumakan looked at Jia Yan and suddenly said husband, which actually made his hair stand on end. Well, old, cough, wife, long time no see. Jia Yan hesitated for a moment, then nodded to her. Then Jia Yan knelt down and looked different from when he was afraid of others. He was not afraid of himself at all, and he stared at his little girl with a pair of big, beautiful eyes. Is this our daughter? I'm sorry, I've been away for too long and I don't even know about this. Well, she's our daughter. I didn't expect that she would be pregnant last time. When talking about the little girl, Satsuma Kana showed a gentle look. Jia Yan and the little girl looked at each other for a few seconds, and then the little girl suddenly laughed, as if she knew naturally that he was not someone else, but her father. Have you given her a name? What is it? Jia Yan's heart melted. I haven't given a big name yet, but my nickname is Jiao. A clever Jiao. Satsuma was a little nervous, thinking that if he named his daughter casually, he would make Jia Yan angry. Unexpectedly, Jia Yan was not angry at all, but nodded happily. Are you smart? That's good. Let's call her Jia Makiao from now on, a word from your name, okay? Hearing Jia Yan's words, Satsuma's eyes flashed with surprise, and he quickly nodded to express his approval of Jia Yan's name. Are you Jiao's father? Jiao looked at Jia Yan with big eyes for a long time and suddenly asked. Yes, I told you, I am your father. Jia Yan scratched her small nose. He Jiao smiled sweetly and tilted her head and smiled, seeming very happy. Uncle, my sister, and Jia Rong have also arrived at the door of the house. They will be very happy to know that you are here. It's a pity that Zioxi can't come back. Otherwise, he would be depressed knowing that he has an aunt who is several years old. He. Are you here? I haven't seen Xiaorong for a long time. It would be nice to meet him. Of course, Jia Yan knew that Xiaorong and others were on their way back. Just now, his brainwave power had already grasped the situation around the entire Earth, and the flying spacecraft naturally did not escape. So we waited for a while, until Xiaorong looked at Jia Yan in confusion, and Jia Qi jumped up and down, wanting to hug Jia Yan. You're almost old enough to be a grandma, but you're still such an old kid. How can your children look at you? Jia Yan was speechless. That's right, Jia Qi had already gotten married. She was married to a mecha genius who had fought with her before, and now her children were eldest. Dad. Jia Rong looked aside for a while, then stepped forward to greet him with a smile. Jia Yan punched his son on the chest, unknowingly, he is taller than me, Dad. You can do it. This punch quickly restored the alienation between the two parties. After all, Jia Rong is already several decades old. How can he still have the same rebellious temperament as when he was a child? Mom. After greeting Jia Yan, Jia Rong found that his mother was also present. She was obviously much more excited than seeing Jia Yan and walked forward. But there seemed to be something under my feet. He looked down and saw, well, a beautiful little girl who could compete with Jia Rong and Satsuma Kono, staring at him with a pair of big watery eyes. Well. Xiaorong, this is your sister. My sister? Damn it, you're my age, why do you have another girl? He immediately raised his head and looked at the Satsuma niche, which seemed to be free of any embarrassment. He then turned to look at Jia Yan, who coughed and deliberately looked at the ground and then the sky. Two nagging old men. Jia Rong was so embarrassed that he didn't swear. How embarrassing. Hello sister, I am your brother Jia Rong. What is your name? My name is Jiao. The little girl clearly felt that the squatting man was related to her, and she laughed. Well, it doesn't matter that such a cute little girl is her younger sister. If she were ugly, Jia Rong wouldn't even want to recognize her. Sister Jiao, next time my brother will take you to play on Earth. By the way, you also have a nephew. I will introduce him to you later. Yeah. Great. Xiao Jiao has a similar temperament to Satsuma Kono. He is not as active and lively as ordinary children and is quite quiet. The family chatted slowly like this. It was a long-awaited gathering, and even Jia Yan had returned, so they couldn't stop chatting about homely things. No one asked much about Jia Yan, even though Jia's mother talked about some old friends and the current development of the Earth. Jia Yan felt quite interested. Later, Jia Kai's daughter also showed up, a primary school student in about 5th or 6th grade, who happened to be playing with Jiao. But during the lunch banquet, someone finally asked about Jia Yan. That is Jia Rong. As a person who walks on the edge of the Orion Arm, he knows very well that, let alone within the Orion Arm, even those around the Orion Arm have never heard of Jia Yan's deeds, or in other words, there is no such giant Mosquito's deeds. Although the Jia family does not openly mention the relationship between Jia Yan and Giant Mosquito, those who understand will naturally understand, including Jia Rong. Dad, where have you been all these years? I don't seem to have heard much about you. When he asked this question, the entire Jia family pricked up their ears. Don't think that if you don't ask, you won't be curious about where Jia Yan went when he disappeared day by day. He must have gone to see the Jia family, and even the vast world that is difficult for the entire Orion Arm people to see. Otherwise, would he have been disappearing and hiding somewhere to practice? Jia Yan thought about it. Then he felt that there was nothing wrong with telling these things to his family. Things in the center of the Milky Way are originally irrelevant to the Orion Arm, because the two sides are too far apart, and their status and value are completely different. There will definitely not be the slightest connection in the future. So he picked something that could be said and easier to understand, and told everyone in the Jia family some of his deeds. In the past few years, through some means, I found Shuyuan and took a trip to the central star field of the Milky Way. It was quite rewarding. Ah! Silver, the central star field of the Milky Way? Is it the center of the Milky Way? Is there really life in this central area of the Milky Way? Yes, how could it not be possible? Moreover, there is the place with the most life and the most developed life in the entire galaxy. There are even more powerful people, which is quite dangerous. Everyone was shocked. In fact, just based on what Jia Yan said, it was difficult for them to understand what it meant to have the most life, what it meant to be the most developed, and it was impossible to understand how strong they would be when there were so many strong people. But since these words came from Jia Yan's mouth, they could roughly understand that such a level of abundance and strength must be beyond their imagination. Is that so, the central star field of the Milky Way? Jia Rong chewed Jia Yan's words, and then sighed unnoticeably to everyone. Jia Yan noticed it, but said nothing. In fact, as a father, Jia Yan knew very well that his son, who had never dealt with him before, always wanted to surpass him, and even refused to accept his kindness when he went to the genius school, had never been able to accept his kindness from the beginning to the end, even when he arrived. So far, the desire to surpass Jia Yan has not been extinguished. Set a small goal first, such as remembering in 1 second, Shikiju mobile version reading website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2464. But the problem is, Jia Yan believes that his son really can't surpass himself. The strength is getting worse. At this time, Jia Rong has reached the peak of the venerable and is ready to hit the semi-star level. Speaking of which, this speed is not too slow. At least in the field of genius studies, it cannot be said to be mediocre. It can even be rated as a genius. However, compared with Jia Yan's initial promotion speed and future potential, this son cannot be compared at all. His genes are indeed good, so good that they are the envy of countless species, but in fact, in the universe, especially in the central star field of the Milky Way, there are many natural species that are better than Jia Rong, because the so-called perfection is impossible. Jia Rong's genes were adjusted to perfection by the original bio-empire technology, but if placed in the central star field of the Milky Way, it would be nothing. What he lacks is the evolutionary beast gene. Without this, it will never be possible to compare with Jia Yan. Even if he has the inheritance of the evolved beasts, it will be extremely difficult to reach Jia Yan's current level. We have not seen so many evolved beasts in history, but only has Jia Yan reached his current level. Yes, the current Jia Yan can be said to be the most powerful evolved beast in history. None of them. Xiao Rong, if you want, I can take you to the central star field of the Milky Way when I have time. For a moment, Jia Yan felt that he didn't know how to speak. It seemed that there was always a gap between him and his son. It was not obvious just now, but it suddenly became apparent when he spoke. Jia Rong looked at Jia Yan again, then shook his head. No, thank you, Dad. Jia Yan didn't know whether he was really unwilling or just pretending not to be willing. Although Jia Yan was strong enough and even strong enough to affect the emotions of everyone present, he didn't bother to do it, so he didn't know what his son was actually thinking in his heart. He doesn't know either. Anyway, whenever he thinks about it, it would be okay to take him out of the Orion Arm to see the outside world. It's not a big deal. Even if you live in a palace, it's no worse than the Earth, right? If that doesn't work, you can open a special room in the palace and make it into a small world. Divide it into several floors, and maybe it can accommodate all the people on the Earth. As I said a long time ago, although the palace is not larger than the Earth, the usable area cannot be compared with the Earth. Just if Jia Yan manages to create a few floors of space, the accommodation rate will be several times larger than that of the ball. It's 10 to 100 times possible. Besides, Odysseus star can accommodate a lot of people. Of course, this is all in the future, and Jiarong may refuse because of face. Hello, Dad, Mom taught me to kiss you when I see you, okay. During the dinner, a little girl walked up to Jia Yan and spoke to Jia Yan in a formal and serious manner with her big eyes wide open. Ah! Jia Yan was stunned for a while. Then, with a helpless side, he deliberately pretended that it had nothing to do with him and smiled bitterly. Well, I thought that after many years of living on Earth, Satsuma Temple would become slightly similar to Earthlings, but I didn't expect that it would still be so weird in terms of education. But seeing the expectant and innocent look in the little girl's eyes, Jia Yan shook his head helplessly and stretched out his face. Of course, kiss her. B.A. Xiao Qiao kissed Jia Yan, then jumped back into her mother's arms, as if asking for credit. Jia Yan believes that although this daughter was a bit weird by her mother, at least she will not become hostile to her father like Jiarong. At night, a man with an unremarkable face was walking on the street hand in hand with a beautiful woman. Even on the Earth today, where the streets are filled with beauties due to genetic optimization and the influx of countless beauties from aliens, the beauty next to the man stands out because of her perfection and her temperament, and many people look back. But the two of them were not affected by others. Just walking together. Husband, will you blame me? Satsuma was a little nervous and looked at Jia Yan walking beside him. What's your fault? Is it about giving birth? The beauty blinked and then nodded. Idiot, we are husband and wife. Isn't it normal to have a baby? Rather, I should say that I was never at home and couldn't even take care of you when you gave birth to a baby. I did something wrong. Thank you for your hard work. Chiao is very smart and cute. Thank you. After hearing Jia Yan's praise, Satsuma Kono smiled widely. You could say that she still has a bit of a weird personality, but after so many years, she is still closer to the people on Earth. At least she is not the unsmiling iceberg beauty she used to be. Jia Yan raised his head and looked into the depths of the starry sky. The clone is looking at the real body. Although they are all controlled by one person, at this moment, Jia Yan's spirit in the clone part has the illusion of being two different people from his true identity. He wished that he could continue to live in the clone's body and live a good family relationship with his wife, children, and family. This is probably called Wenwen Township. Sure enough, things like home are the easiest thing for men to lose their dreams and ambitions. However, Jia Yan is not an ordinary person. He is a super strong man in the starry sky. It is impossible for him to stop because of his temporary enjoyment and state of mind. By the way, Satsuma-chan, have you sensed anything wrong recently? For example, some powerful people are spying on you, or is there something wrong in your hometown? Jia Yan remembered another incident when he returned to his hometown this time, so he asked tentatively. He came to the Orion Arm first of all because he wanted to come back. Anyway, his strength would stagnate for a while, and he really missed home. Another point is that Jia Yan knew that the so-called concubine Khan was too enthusiastic about him, which led her to investigate Jia Yan's hometown from the outside world, and she seemed to have actually found out about it, so Jia Yan was a little worried. But now it seems that the other party has not arrived, at least not before him. After all, with such a long distance, even if the concubine creature has a smooth journey, it cannot be faster than Jia Yan, who has the ability to travel in subspace. What's wrong? No, by the way, Our Xiao 11ER has gone to other places to play these days, and I haven't seen him for several years. Satsumakan thought about it for a long time, but couldn't remember what was wrong. Haha, I sensed this kid when he came back. He is picking up girls at the border of our Orion arm. I don't care about him. As long as he doesn't do something super strong, no one can resist him. Super strong person. Satsumakan chewed on these words for a while, and then wanted to ask, but didn't want to. She didn't know what kind of super strong person Jia Yan was talking about. But with Jia Yan's current strength that she can't see through at all, the super strong person's strength that he speaks of is probably not the star level that Satsuma Kong thinks. That's right, Satsuma Kono, as a person who has been promoted to the lower level of the Venerable and is about to be able to touch the semi-star level strength, the super strong person she originally considered was a star level. But she knew that her husband, Jia Yan, might have already transcended the star level. Therefore, the super strong person he would call may not be a star level, or even if it is, it should be a peak star level or something like that. Otherwise, how can he be worthy of the super strong person he calls him? Of course, Satsuma Kong may not have thought that the super strong people mentioned by Jia Yan are probably at the beginning of the galaxy at least. This is because in the Orion arm, otherwise placed in the central star field of the Milky Way, a galaxy novice, Jia Yan, feels like a minion, who can be killed with a single blow. Yes, the protection method Jia Yan gave his grandson was capable of fighting against the galaxy level. Although it can only deal with the weakest primary galaxy class, are there so many galaxy classes around the Orion arm? No. Therefore, he didn't believe it anymore. How could his grandson play outside and endanger his life? Okay, that's all I'm asking. No special questions. After all, I still have a lot of enemies outside. I really need to think about how to protect the Orion arm in the future. During Jia Yan's conversation with Satsumakan, these inspirations came out. He wanted to create a safer environment for the Orion arm. The Earth side and the relative side are the top priority. People can't really be level with a bowl of water. Although other civilizations in the Orion arm can be regarded as civilizations under the protection of Jia Yan, how can they be the same as their hometown? Comparable to Earth? It just so happens that I learned a lot of this knowledge from the black hole area in the center of the Milky Way, from the Zerg Queen, and from the star field protective shield of the previous evolutionary beast seniors, and I can try to make it. Jia Yan had long had the idea of making a protective shield, but after so many years, he didn't have such a strong need, so he put it aside. Moreover, it is not true that he has never made one before. For example, the protective shield on the surface of Edisha. Although the effect is definitely not comparable to the energy circle made by the Zerg Queen, it is similar in effect. Another example is the yin-yang star in the yin-yang sect and the positive and reverse planet of cultivation in subspace. They are all works of analogy, so speaking of it, Jia Yan is not inexperienced. I just don't have such large-scale experience. Haha, if Concubine Kun really comes to Orion arm and finds that it is like an iron barrel, she will be quite shocked. Jia Yan was originally not hostile to the so-called Concubine Kun. After all, she just admired him and was not doing anything bad. But if she really came to Orion arm to do something bad, then don't blame yourself. Even if this led to conflicts with the Mountain Green Territory Lord who was also a senior territory lord, he was not afraid. After all, this matter involves my own limits. Of course, Jia Yan can't guarantee whether that will be the case. Anyway, we'll see when the time comes. Husband, what are you thinking about? Satsumakan asked curiously. Jia Yan stared at her, his thoughts surging, and finally turned into a smile. Satsuma-chan, now I always feel that being called husband by you has become much more pleasant. Yeah. Satsumakan also grinned. It seems that he is a strong person who won the final victory, stronger than Jia Yan. Yes, she won Jia Yan's heart, or it should be said that unknowingly, she used her own way to defeat Jia Yan, a strong man whose strength may have reached a level she could not imagine. Of course Jia Yan didn't think this was a humiliation, because it was considered sweet. There must always be some emotion in life, otherwise, wouldn't it be too monotonous? I may stay for a while when I come back this time. You haven't broken through to half-star level yet. During this period, I will find a way for you to break through. What? Can you really do this? This. Besides this, I also want to do something else. Jia Yan looked at Satsuma Kono mysteriously and affectionately. Time flies, just a week. During this week, all aspects of the earth seemed to be unaware of the return of Jia Yan. The entire senior management was shocked. However, Jia Yan didn't say anything, and no one of them was ready to come to visit, because they had made several mistakes before, which made Jia Yan not happy. People on Earth also understand that Jia Yan, a strong man who has been hanging around aliens all year round, may feel like he is on vacation when he returns to Earth and does not want to deal with affairs at all. What's more, the Earth really doesn't need him to interfere anymore. At this time when the Earth Alliance's status is stable, technology is flowing in rapidly, and the yin and yang Dao cultivation path cannot catch up and become stronger, Jia Yan shows up, it's just a waste of Earth's diplomatic funds. Yes, if it really wants to be a big deal, the Earth Alliance will once again have to spend a lot of money to welcome and entertain the greatest hero in the history of the Earth. Such a waste of financial resources and manpower is quite terrifying, and it is equivalent to a waste of national power. If you don't do it, it won't work, and you will be stabbed in the back by the public. Other alien civilizations in the Orion Arm Alliance will also scold them, because the Earth can't do it well, and they are even willing to spend all their money to do it. So Jia Yan didn't want to trouble others, and they also hoped that Jia Yan would stop showing up in a big way. It's just that this disappearance, as time goes by, is still slowly revealed. After all, the influence of Jia Yan's return is still extremely terrifying to find at Chiyuan. Some changes in the secret can be easily detected by discerning people, and these discerning people secretly pass on the news, letting other people know the secret. In this way, it spreads from 10 to 10, and countless people know about it. The impact on other aspects is not significant. Surprisingly, many security cases on the Earth have been reduced by more than 80% in an instant. In order to let the great man discover their talents, the students have all worked harder and brought aliens to the Earth. The spending power of immigrants, or the wealthy people who enjoy themselves, has increased a lot. Just one rumor changed the entire Earth, leaving all the high-level officials on Earth dumbfounded and amazed at the influence of the name Jia Yan. Of course, Jia Yan's influence must be extremely strong. Not to mention the history of the Earthlings he created just a few decades ago, let's just say that the Earth is still under Jia Yan's influence. The Earthling's status is all due to his relationship with the Mosquito ancestor. The Earthlings, it's impossible to forget him. It's just that the senior people on Earth believed that Jia Yan did not want to show up or be disturbed. Unexpectedly, when about a week passed, Jia Yan actually came to the door in person. You are Lord Jia Yan. Hello, sir. Long time no see. Set a small goal first, such as remembering in 1 second, Shikiju mobile version reading website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2465. The highest figure in the Earth Alliance, who is also the current president of the Alliance, almost lost his temper when he saw Jia Yan. The people on Earth have changed from a parliamentary system decades ago to today's presidential system. For various reasons, the president has extremely powerful powers, and this guy was the original speaker. He was deeply afraid that Jia Yan would do this because he sat alone. It's a long-term position, and it's not good for his senses. Haha, long time no see, you don't have to worry so much. I have seen what you have done over the years, and you have indeed dedicated yourself to the interests of the people of the earth as a whole, so I don't mind what you do at all. Isn't it just that you sit in one position and refuse to step down? Jia Yan said that among the masters of power in the starry sky, there are those who have sat in their positions and never stepped down for thousands of years. Where are you now? As long as he can do practical things, in addition to taking care of his family a little, it is not unacceptable to Jia Yan. If you don't do it for yourself, you will be punished by heaven and earth. As long as he doesn't go too far, Jia Yan is very generous within the allowed range. I'm here for no other reason than that I need you to do something for me. Jia Yan did not deny the president's conscientiousness. Although he will probably ask him to resign in a few years and set a term limit for future presidents, this is not the first term, forget it. Oh? I wonder, Lord Jia Yan, what do you need me to do? A few days later, the Earth, which had not been promoting the return of Jia Yan, suddenly started publicizing the fact that Jia Yan was back, like a flood. And there is still a lot of work being done, and it is said that there will be a festival grand ceremony for Earth Peace Day. This Peace Day is said to be a peace day, but in fact, the peace days in previous years were almost all dedicated to commending the achievements of the giant Mosquito, because when the Earth was peacefully liberated, almost all of them were the original giant Mosquito, in every city on the Earth. He did it by leading the people on Earth to fight back. Originally, the 90th anniversary had just passed a few years ago, but this ordinary 95th anniversary actually had another big event. And it was an even grander event than the 90th anniversary. Even the senior officials of the Earth Alliance inexplicably sent invitations to many civilizations, asking them to send envoys and the like to celebrate. Not only the outside world is confused, but also many people inside the Earth are confused. Countless alien civilizations are analyzing that this wave of celebrations on Earth is probably because the people on Earth have lost too much prestige some time ago, because the giant Mosquito family has not appeared on Earth for a long time, causing people on Earth to be in the Orion arm. His status in the Alliance is gradually declining. At this time, holding a large-scale commemorative event may be to increase his reputation. Of course, even if the Earth's current presence is much weaker than when the Orion Arm Alliance was first established, the alien civilizations still do not deny face. After all, the Earth Alliance is still the leader of the entire Orion Arm, and they are still the strongest on Earth. The existence of Jia Yan may also be the most terrifying strong man in the entire Orion Arm. Therefore, the surrounding civilizations have sent envoys, and the civilizations that are more distant and have no conditions are communicating well and preparing to send congratulatory calls on the same day. Other big countries such as the Empire, although they are far apart, have also sent huge envoys. This has become the norm recently, but this norm has changed from a large number of people at the beginning to an increasingly smaller number of people. The influence of the Earth is still there, but it is an indisputable fact that it has become less. But at least this time, everyone is still here, and the Empire is not weird in this regard. Lord Jia Yan, this matter has been settled. Please look forward to it. At the Earth Alliance Presidential Office, the President, who had been doing things for several days, greeted the man sitting on the sofa waiting with a smile. That's good, I hope you can do it well, but then I may use the celebration day for other purposes. You don't have to worry about the specifics, and it will definitely be beneficial to the Earth. I'm leaving, thank you. Jia Yan put down the red wine glass in his hand, stood up with a smile, and then took a step and disappeared from the spot. Well. The president seemed relieved at Jia Yan's disappearance. Even though he is the highest official in the Earth Alliance, facing this man who has almost single-handedly built the current Earth Alliance is still quite stressful. Moreover, This man's combat effectiveness is definitely beyond his reach, and it is very likely that, within the current Orion arm, his combat effectiveness is definitely the strongest. Although the people on Earth have been integrated into aliens for a relatively short time, they have already understood that aliens should be a world of strong people. People on Earth seem to be beautiful, but their only card is Jia Yan. If one day Jia Yan announces that he will no longer to protect the Earth, many civilizations that are so weak to the Earth and have such a status will smell the fishy wolf and chase the Earth civilization until it is completely destroyed. Streets of Earth. The man who had just left the president's office was walking down the street with a bouquet of roses and a stuffed bear nearly as tall as a person under his arm. Dad. A little girl stood on the street accompanied by the big beauty, as if she had been waiting for him for a long time. The man rubbed the little girl's head and then handed the little bear to her. This is a gift from Daddy. Look, this bear can walk and talk. Isn't it fun? Fun. The little girl was so happy that she hugged the stuffed bear that was taller than herself and pressed the button on it to make the bear talk and sing. Honey, this bouquet of flowers is for you. The flower language means I love you. You, love me, well, thank you husband. The beautiful lady was stunned for a while, as if she didn't recognize him. She looked at the ordinary-looking man in front of her, then smiled sweetly, her eyes turned into crescents, and took the bouquet. Her performance broke the hearts of many men who were watching her. Well, the man next to her is not very good-looking either. Why did he find such a beautiful wife with such temperament? Someone is sour. When they were talking, the man in the distance seemed to be listening to the wind. He looked at the speaker here as if nothing had happened, and then smiled proudly. Husband, what are you thinking about? It's nothing, I just thought, in fact, many things in daily life are quite interesting. How could I have forgotten it before? Really? Then, from now on, I will accompany you through your daily life. Well, let's go see a movie first. The man, the beauty, and the little girl embarked on a journey hand in hand, and everyone looked at them with envy along the way. On the other hand, there was another young man who was in a faraway place, as if he could see the scene over there from such a distance, and finally shook his head helplessly. My parents are like this, why haven't I been like this since I was a child? Little sister, you are lucky. There was a hint of sadness in his eyes. But he soon restrained himself, because he was no longer that age, not to mention he had a family and children of his own, so naturally he would no longer have a childish temper. Jia Yan walked on the road with his wife and daughter, feeling the whole atmosphere and having a unique feeling. He felt that he had traveled too many roads and experienced too many things in his life, but he only lacked the word love and the strength of family. At this moment, it was very rare to experience this feeling, and he suddenly felt a lot of emotion. Husband, why are you laughing? Satsuma Kono tilted his head again and looked at Jia Yan curiously. Her appearance also has the stereotype of an alien creature, a little cold, but it gives Jia Yan more of a sense of innocence. You're not smiling, Satsuma-chan, just wait for me to give you another surprise. Well, I'm waiting. I'm looking forward to it. No matter what it is, I'll be happy. Satsuma nodded seriously. Jia Yan found that along the way, Satsuma's shrine carefully held the flowers he sent out. Sometimes he was almost touched by passers-by, but he would use his speed to protect the flowers in an instant. It can be seen that she will protect it well no matter what Jia Yan gives her. Giant mosquitoes crawled heavily in the subspace. The entire huge palace gave him quite a lot of space, even so empty that it made Jia Yan feel a little uncomfortable. In this impregnable space, he was in the mood to have a good rest, and at the same time, he could project more of his energy onto his avatar, making himself almost become that Jia Yan. Even if it is just a clone, he is now like a real earthling, and he has a lovely wife, and she is an extremely beautiful wife whose beauty and temperament are extremely enviable. This is like a dream. Beautiful dreams always make people fall asleep deeply and do not want to wake up. In this dream, he had a complex family relationship with his wife, daughter, and slightly rebellious adult son. From time to time, he could meet with relatives among them. The family life was leisurely and quiet. Enrichment. In the dream, the family is happy, the wife is beautiful, the daughter is cute, and although the son is a bit young and strong, he is still obedient. Jia Yan was embarrassed. For many days in a row, he didn't practice much or think about things about being strong. Instead, he was absorbed in life. This was a dream he had woven by himself, and it was also the first time he tried a different way of life after becoming a senior domain lord. In the middle of the night, a high-end tourist flying RV parked on the most beautiful unnamed island on Earth. There was no one else on the entire island, the blue waves were rippling all around, the sound of water was all around, the sky was dotted with stars, and the whole beauty was beyond description in words. "Husband, what are you thinking about?" Suddenly, the woman walked up to the male host and asked again what she had been asking all the way. Jia Yan turned around and faced the woman with her clear eyes that seemed to be able to speak. Even though she is over 100 years old, even though she is already the mother of 2 children, Jia Yan can still see the purity and sincerity in her eyes after so many years. "Wife, you don't have to guess what I'm thinking. Now that I'm with you, I won't think about anything else." Jia Yan smiled. Satsuma pursed his lips, leaned against Jia Yan, put his arms around him, and closed his eyes. "Honey, can I ask you a question too?" "Husband, tell me. When you chased me, why did you have the courage to give up your body and become a woman who looks like an earthling?" Jia Yan still doesn't understand this matter. "Because I like you." Jia Yan rolled his eyes strangely, even though he got the answer, he still couldn't understand it. Maybe, this is the passionate love of a woman? I don't understand. But Jia Yan doesn't feel that Satsuma's shrine is still as inhumane as before. The closer you get to her, the better you can understand her feelings and thoughts, and she is getting closer and closer to the emotions of people on Earth. To put it bluntly, everyone is a living being, and their general emotions and needs are the same, and there are not so many barriers. The starry sky is so beautiful. Husband, tell me, you are living in the starry sky far, far away. Are you leading a completely different life from us? Well, maybe it's completely different from what you think, but there's nothing bad about life on Earth. Well, husband, you can live for a long time. If I die in the future, will you find another female? If you don't look for me anymore, you will be the last one. Husband, you are so kind. I love you too. He. Hubby, why are you laughing again? You're not laughing. By the way, Satsuma-chan, can you stop calling me husband all the time? It's a bit embarrassing. Why can't you shout? You are my husband and I am your wife. The two of them were leaning on each other. In the RV in the distance, a small head stuck out. She was holding a stuffed toy, looking at the picture here with her big eyes, blinking from time to time, and then she gestured to the stuffed bear. He made loud gestures and started laughing. An earth-shattering giant flew through the universe. Haha, we got that adult's protection, now it's time to make the mere Orion arm pay the price. Yes, this Orion arm is obviously extremely weak, but because of the protection of a strong man, it wants to be on an equal footing with our star field. If we hadn't been unwilling to go to war in the past few years, we might have already invaded the Orion arm. Forget it, what happened before was because we were cowardly or because we had no time. Everyone knows in their hearts that now with the protection of that adult, we have to take revenge. The first test begins at the border. At the Orion arm border, a caravan consisting of a large number of ordinary merchant ships was unloading goods. A girl of 14 or 15 years old was walking quickly on the bridge of the merchant ship, but beside her was a young man dressed as a sailor, which made her extremely annoyed. "How long do you want to follow me? Now that you have joined my merchant ship, is following me that interesting?" The girl Suya was so helpless. Through these few days of interactions, she understood that the young man around her was a scoundrel. No matter how you communicate with him, he will not care about his own thoughts. He is like a dogskin plaster and will follow him life and death. It could be said that he was greedy for the appearance of the imperial princess, but she didn't do anything disgusting, he just followed her and teased her occasionally. What's more, if this person is really from the Geo family, the girl will understand that as long as the other person wants to, she can really only commit herself to marrying, so there is no need to do so many tricks. Set a small goal first, such as remembering in 1 second, Shikiju mobile version reading website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2466. So in this way, Suya really doesn't understand what this young man is thinking and what he wants. Haha, sneaking into the merchant ship is just to facilitate my movement. I can also find some food to eat when I'm hungry. This is with your permission, otherwise I wouldn't be able to sneak in so easily, okay? Isn't that what you asked for? Oh my god, can you really make excuses? Are all the men on earth so shameless? The young man chuckled, ran to Princess Suya again, and helped her open an electronic door, looking like a little boy. Don't say that, Your Highness Princess, we are not enemies in the first place. You won't be angry with a little person like me. Aren't you a small character? I have never seen a small character who can escape so many powerful people without being caught. Is your subspace talent too strong? Well, it's not my fault. This is the protection of my family. Well, in short, I'm really not strong enough. The young man was extremely helpless. Anyway, I already know who you are. Tell me what you want to do quickly. Tell me quickly. Suya felt that she could no longer be entangled with King Mei like this. The young man looked at the beautiful young princess again, and then let out a long sigh. If I said that I just wanted to see what your empire is planning to do, would you believe it? Huh? What is our empire going to do? I'm afraid things will break down at one point. After all, Suya was no fool. She instantly understood the mentality of this young man who seemed to be from the Geo family. In recent years, their empire has recovered from the war very quickly. After all, it was the hegemon in the first place. It has a vast territory and a large number of talents. In terms of population, resources, and commercial influence, it is compared to the Earth, which is only at the threshold of primary civilization. Say, the difference is more than 1,000 times or 10,000 times. Even if the Earth has a Jiayan to support it, and there is a giant mosquito clan as its backing, if its hard power is not good enough, it just won't work. You can't let your followers follow the northwest wind. Therefore, the speed at which the empire regained its former status was as fast as a rocket. Even though the Earth Alliance had been vaguely aware of this and had taken countermeasures, the gap in overall strength was as huge as an ocean. It doesn't matter. As a young man, this junior of the Geo family has been involved in interstellar affairs early. Maybe this trip was not instructed by the Earth or the Geo family, but maybe it came from his own judgment. Young people are more passionate and impulsive and want to know the answer, so they come in person. Oh, you are a young Earthling, so what's the use of knowing what our empire is planning to do? Besides, you have been traveling with me and others for a long time, so you should know best that our empire is just trading with aliens. Yes, I know that the empire is indeed just conducting normal transactions, and I also know that the empire's recent transactions are gaining momentum. If several of the most important transactions are reached with foreign lands in the near future, the entire empire will benefit, and the entire country will be hard-pressed. Soft power will reach a new level. The young man nodded, but his eyes quickly became cold. But it's just a transaction. What's the purpose of your empire's aggressive purchase of war weapons? Don't tell me you don't know the details. The last time you traded with the powerful master of the outer territory in person, you found a secret room and reached a new agreement with them. Weapons procurement plan, right? Having said this, Suya's face turned ugly. She knew that the young man really had control over their actions, and even the hidden transaction was discovered by him. At the same time, she was even more shocked by this young man's methods. She originally thought that he relied on his high-level combat power to carry out subdimensional activities, and he should be easily discovered by powerful people above the level of venerable. But now it seems that things are not as simple as imagined. As expected, anyone from the Geo family on Earth should not be underestimated if he just walks out. Now that the words had reached this level, Suya couldn't pretend anymore. She simply sat on the sofa in a recently opened merchant ship room, and then waved the door to close. Okay, Gia 11, you win. Your subspace ability is indeed very powerful, but have you ever thought that even if you have subspace ability, there are still enough people on this merchant ship to kill you? I believe it, but you don't dare to do it. Just because you are from the Geo family. That's right, just because I am a member of the Geo family. Besides, although I haven't tried it, even if you do it, the probability of actually killing me is not very high. After finishing speaking, the young man suddenly paused and turned his eyes annoyedly to Suya's face, which was almost as young as him. Are you lying to me? Humph, so what if you guys know that I am Gia 11? I am indeed a member of the Geo family. Even if my identity is revealed now, will the powerful men on this ship dare to attack me? The young man, oh no, Gia 11, was a little angry at this moment, and his words sounded like he was breaking a jar. But with his intelligence, he couldn't be so stupid. He was just following the stick. Now that his identity is known, he should admit it openly. The Geo family is within the arms of Orion, so they really have nothing to fear. As for the outside world, it seems that none of them have been out, and they don't know if the name of the Geo family is still useful outside. In short, in the Orion arm, even here in the Empire, the name of the Geo family is the best among the best. Even at an international conference, the female General Jiachi, who has made the most public appearances in the Geo family, met the Emperor of the Empire. The first person to pay tribute was the Emperor, which shows how noble the Geo family's status is. Suya was shocked by Gia 11's confidence. You know, as a noble princess of the Empire, in the past, even if she didn't kneel down and kowtow along the way, she would always be respectful. No one dared to pretend to be in front of her. Even if you have to pretend, it's like the powerful people from the big families in the outside world you face this time. Compared to the forces in Orion's arms, they are considered powerful and have much deeper foundations. They are often the families that have been passed down for tens of thousands of years. There are even more powerful men in the family who are far beyond the level of venerables. To the Empire, such power is as terrifying as heaven. Even towards the Geo family, the imperial royal family was respectful on the surface, but they kept secretly ridiculing them, saying that they were the upstarts of rural civilization. There were many jokes about this matter. For example, after the Emperor of the Empire paid tribute to Jiachi last time, Jiachi didn't know what kind of etiquette should be returned has become a matter of private discussion among many high-level civilization officials. But this time, she met a junior of the Geo family in person, and figured out that he was Gia 11, a junior of the Geo family, but the other party did not show the slightest worry or wavering because his identity was revealed. On the contrary, extremely domineering and cold as ice. Gia 11. Although you have a noble status, do you know that you are on my ship now? There are several venerables on my ship. If you act rashly, you may be killed. I don't believe it. You, the Geo family's methods can still protect you from so many light years away. Suya was also a little annoyed. To put it bluntly, the two parties were just children, and the two children were from top families who were not easy to deal with. It was understandable that they would not give in to each other for a few words, and they would get really angry. Of course, Suya admitted that even if Jia-11 surrendered, she would not be able to really kill Jia-11. The Jia family themselves might not be that big of a deal, but the giant Mosquito clan standing behind them really gave everyone in the empire a heart-piercing feeling. That kind of power is also the real reason why no one in the countless surrounding star fields dares to cause trouble, even though they know that the Orion arm is weak and have a lot of resources. To put it bluntly, the current Orion arm, all civilizations including the Empire, are safe and secure through the bond between the Geo family of the Earth Alliance and the giant Mosquito clan. Without this bond, maybe the second one day, the entire Orion arm will reappear, the experience of nearly being destroyed several times in the past. You can give it a try, Suya. I know you are also an ambitious imperial princess, but you should know very well that there is no possibility of you ascending to the throne of God, so why should you? Two children were playing a threatening game in this room. I don't know how long it took, but they seemed to realize something was wrong. This room seems to be a single room, the space is very small, both parties are almost crowded together. Ahem, anyway, Jia-11, I already know your identity. Please stop doing any more tricks. I won't allow it. Go out first. Suya's face turned red and she pushed the door open. On the other hand, Jia-11, as a member of the Jia family, is very courageous, unlike his grandfather who is as timid as a mouse when it comes to emotions. So after he suddenly came to his senses, he rubbed his smooth, beardless chin and showed a contemptuous smile. Immediately, not knowing what he was thinking, he followed him out of the room. Speaking of which, it was really possible for two young people to create such a big event as marriage in their early years. Unfortunately, neither party had such intention, so after a lot of commotion among the people below, whether it was the Empire or the Geo family has not risen to the level of specific operations. This caravan, after conducting some transactions at the busy external port, began to accelerate its return to the Empire's center, sticking to the ancient realm shield of the Orion arm. The so-called boundary protective shield had actually been turned into ruins as early as after the initial war. After a large amount of energy was thrown away, although the Orion arms finally recaptured the area and retained the border, the protective shield had already failed, and no one ever mentioned fixing it. Because the repair technology is simply not what the current Orion arm can do, and the resources are also extremely terrifying. Therefore, the protective shield has not been repaired, and the Orion arm naturally resists the external border and disappears, integrating with the real starry sky. It's just that although the original protective shield has disappeared, the energy cannot be lost so easily. In many places, there is still a little wave power left in the vacuum, which sweeps up from time to time. Decades have passed, and Orion's arms are open to navigation. The civilization of China has summed up its experience through countless experiments, large and small, and actually made use of the power of these original protective shields that blew up from time to time. Once the ancient cosmic wind with the protective shield blows in the border area, it is the best time for navigation. Ships sailing with this force will increase their speed by about double, and the energy consumption will be saved by about double. There are so many benefits of going back and forth, so a large number of merchant ships are borrowing this protective cosmic wind to fly, saving countless money every year. Even several neighboring star regions on the other side of the protective shield have recently applied to allow their cargo ships to use the cosmic wind of this protective shield when sailing. The price is to waive a certain amount of payment and provide the relevant routes. Orion arms civilization transaction taxes, etc. Therefore, even if the protective shield that protected the Orion arm for hundreds of thousands of years disappears, the original Starry Sky Beast Senior will still exist for a long time. If he does not interfere with it, the benefits he has given to future generations will still exist. The wind can continue to blow for hundreds of thousands of years, benefiting a large number of people. Today, the caravan carrying the imperial Princess Suya and a large amount of goods also counted on a protective cosmic wind and prepared to set sail towards the center of the empire. Boo-hoo-hoo. In the cosmic wind, the surrounding scenery seemed to have entered another dimension, with various colors and ships moving incredibly fast. Using this cosmic wind, the ship can break through the shackles of the speed of light, and then it can also use space vortex technology to make the speed exceed the speed of light. It's amazing. Sitting at the bridge window of the merchant ship, the young man marveled. Beside him was the little Princess Suya, who was reading alone with a book in her hand. Haha, is this the country bumpkin temperament of people on Earth? Even such technology is surprising. You haven't seen the super light speed technology that our empire is researching. If the research is successful, we will not use cosmic wind with help, we can reach the current speed. After being ridiculed by Suya, Jia 11 couldn't help but reply, "Oh? It is said that your empire uses a large amount of resources to exchange this technology with the outside world, right? If you have the ability to research it yourself, I will feel weird. From now on to brag about something bought by others, tisk. What Jia 11 said was so weird that Suya was so excited that she stopped exploding on the spot. She was about to retort, saying that even if such technology was given to the Earth, she was afraid that the people on Earth would not be able to understand it. Boom! In the starry sky outside, a terrifying behemoth that reached more than 10 kilometers and was not much smaller than the largest merchant ship present suddenly emerged from the universe, and then walked sideways to the side of the caravan, covering its ears with lightning speed. With such force, it hit an imperial merchant ship. The merchant ship, which had no time to react, was like a small toy in the hand of a terrifying monster, and was slapped in two. Princess. There is a powerful enemy coming from the outside world. Be prepared, we are going to escape quickly. Suddenly, a power that reached the level of a venerable was transmitted to the Princess Suya in a flash, protecting her within the energy, and at the same time, it also transmitted a message to come. Set a small goal first, such as remembering in 1 second, Shikiju mobile version reading website.